There's a racetrack nestled deep in the heartland. Everybody knows it. Everybody has a heart. And once a year, this warm, familiar place changes. In a way that'd make anybody's heart beat faster. Every year, a single stretch of road comes to life. Angry, twisted, some say out for revenge. To run here, a toll must be paid, not in nickels and dimes, in sweat and blood. This place keeps company with ghosts, challengers long since passed, but not forgotten. Where flashes of mechanical and human brilliance run side by side with folly. Ask anyone who's been here. This place makes you do things you shouldn't do. It dares anyone and everyone to tame that which can't be tamed. But like sin to a sinner, they always come back. They bring with them powerful machines, mini volcanoes, ready to erupt with sound and fury. Some travel in gangs, mixing flash and dash with the icy cold precision of a straight razor. Others travel fast and loose, grabbing risk by the neck and beating it to a pulp. Some bring experience, dark secrets earned at great expense. Some bring cold, hard logic. Some bring dangerous beauty, ready to turn this place upside down. But all are here to tame the beast. Find 2.5 miles of asphalt and a yard of bricks that separates 33 souls from greatness, and you found what everyone is looking for. Here, they don't write stories about you if you lose. Your pages are left blank. But victory in a place like this, it's so palpable you can taste it. And it tastes a lot like immortality. Welcome to Speed City.
Yes, every year, Indianapolis becomes Speed City. The images are so familiar, aren't they? Huge crowds here. The race control pagoda. The scoring pylon, which now shows our starting field. And all 33 competitors vying to have their face on the Borg Warner Trophy, one of the most prestigious awards in all of sports. Something different this year, a 23-year-old woman who has electrified the racing universe. Danica Patrick, a pedal-to-the-metal competitor, will today try to become the first woman to take the checkered flag at Indianapolis. Welcome, everybody, to the Firestone Race Day, a day that has become a very special part of our nation's calendar. As we welcome you to the Indianapolis Speedway, I'm Brent Musburger. You know, if you're like me, through the years, you've always looked so forward to the Indy 500. It signals the arrival of summer, families together for those backyard barbecues, but always with an eye and an ear on the 500. And also because it's Memorial Day, and that's a time when we remember the courageous men and women who paid the ultimate price so we, as a free people, can enjoy events like the Indy 500. And today we bring you what could be a very special 500. We'll detail the amazing story of 23-year-old Danica Patrick. She's attempting to make history here this afternoon. And we'll also bring you the uplifting story of owner Sam Schmidt, who stays close to the sport he loves despite a tragic racing accident. There's also the amazing comeback of Kenny Breck. 19 months ago, an accident in Texas almost cost him his life. His replacement last year on the Ray Hall Letterman team, Buddy Rice, won the 500. Now, in an ironic twist of fate, Rice will miss the race because of a practice accident, and Breck moves back in. Dr. Jerry Punch has been standing by in the Ray Hall Letterman garage, so we go to Jerry.
Thank you very much, Brent. For Phoenix, Arizona's Buddy Rice, last year's month of May was a dream come true because he won it all. The pole, the pit stop competition, and the greatest spectacle in racing. But this year, that dream quickly became a nightmare when he slammed the turn 2 wall 2 weeks ago. and suffered injuries involving a concussion and torn ligaments in his neck, forcing him to sit out here today. And Buddy, we know it's a tough morning for you, but right now, emotionally, where are you given the fact that you can't defend your Indy 500 crown?
Well, obviously I knew a while back that wasn't going to happen, so the emotions are obviously a little bit different right now, but the excitement's still there. I'm still super excited for our team and all three drivers because they have such a good shot this year at doing what I was able to do last year, so I hope they can do the same.
Well, get well soon, my friend.
Thank you.
Now, one of his car owners is award-winning late-night talk show host David Letterman. And David, who grew up in Indianapolis, by the way, and this place was so special to you growing up, but now having won this race a year ago, what do you know now about the Indy 500 that you didn't know as a youngster?
Well, what I know now about it that I could only guess at all those years before living here was it's the sensation of a lifetime. And now I look at it with a little different perspective that it's possible. When before, as a kid, it was never possible, but last year was the most fun I've had for decades, and I want to go through it again.
How do you balance the emotion of losing your Indy 500 winner and yet bringing one back?
You know, that situation is very nice. It took care of itself. Buddy is a tremendous guy and a tremendous driver, and you know, this sport asks a lot of these people, and in many cases they're just kids. Asks a great deal physically and emotionally, and last year a great deal was asked of Kenny, and he was a true gentleman and a true sportsman, and Buddy is doing the same this year, but I know it must be crushing for him, but handling himself just wonderfully, and it's, you know, it makes me very proud of the association.
Hey, David, thanks for your time and good luck today.
Hope to see you again.
All right, David Letterman. For more on the Ray Hall Letterman story, let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Jerry, there's a certain symmetry to the replacement story here in Ray Hall Letterman Racing. The man that replaced the man is now being replaced by the man. And Kenny Breck, you're back in the cockpit. And I hope we don't ever have to show this footage ever again. But that death-defying and death-threatening crash at Texas just left you battered and bruised and questioning whether you were ever going to get back in a race car. And now with a new baby, why are you back wheeling Indy cars?
Well, I think it's, this story, I think it's fate, basically. I wouldn't have been here unless this would have happened, and it's a great opportunity, obviously, to get back. And I like to write my own chapter in my own book. That's basically what it comes down to, and I'm very grateful for that team Ray Hall Letterman gave me this opportunity. At the same time, I'm obviously sad for Buddy, who's out a little bit, but he's going to be back for the next race.
Well, this team, certainly, that would be the main story along with Vitor Meira, were it not for a 23-year-old rookie who has captured the imagination of the world. Danica Patrick, Bobby Rahal, what sort of advice has he given you about the beginning of this race?
I've been told by him and many other people that have been around here more than 500 miles is that it's a long race and patience is the most important thing here. So I'm going to keep that in mind and make that my word of the day.
Brent, the last time a driver who started in the 4th position, where Danica will be starting today, went to victory lane back in 1986. Oh, by the way, it's her car owner, Bobby Rahal.
And Jack, the celebrities have shown up. They are out in force here. They want to see Danica Patrick and the rest of our 33-car field here. And, of course, the great actor Russell Crowe joins Troy McClain. The band Fuel is here. Cheech Marin. And there he is, the gladiator himself. But perhaps our biggest celebrity here will drive the pace car, the former Secretary of State, General Colin Powell, and he's standing by with Penn holding his pen.
Brent, thanks so much. It is an honor to be standing here next to the General. Now, I know sometimes the pace car driving role is kind of a ceremonial position, but you're taking this serious. I mean, you've been training for this.
I'm taking it very seriously. I've been out to practice twice, and I think I'm comfortable with the car and with the track. And, of course, I also own one of these cars in my personal capacity as well. I have a Corvette. Yeah.
You've been chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Secretary of State. Where does driving the pace car stack up with the rest of your career job?
Must be equal. Must be equal. I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I can't tell you how pleased I am to be here to see these hundreds of thousands of people for the largest sporting event in the world. And so I'm just pleased to be a part of it.
Colin Powell, one of our nation's great leaders, will be taking turn 4 at about 120 miles an hour. Brent, back to you.
All right, Penn, thank you very much. So he'll be in charge of the field, which includes Danica Patrick in the number 16. You know, it was back in '95. She was just a young girl about 4 miles from here at the Major Taylor Velodrome. driving go-karts down there. And here she is today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, trying to become the first woman to win it. She's indeed the bomb.
I just wouldn't stop until I got to the point where I want to be. Second row is not even enough now. Faster you go, the easier it is. Racing must be in my blood. This is my destiny.
We welcome you back to the Speedway, and as you well know, one driver has captured the imagination of the entire country this month. Danica Patrick is now a household name. She'll be driving number 16. She's a 23-year-old Indy rookie who has dominated the speed charts this month. Danica is also one of the most confident drivers to burst on the Indy scene in years. In her own words, meet Danica Patrick.
My name is Danica Patrick. It starts from when the visor goes down to where nobody can see my eyes anymore. And I'm able to eliminate all the cameras around me, all the people, and just sort of start to focus. I'm 5'1" and all of 100 pounds. I've been hired to take a 1,500-pound machine around a track at speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour. I don't need to be able to bench more than someone else or everybody else. I just need to drive the race car. I am a race car driver. You're almost numb, but you feel everything. You can feel things through your butt, and you can feel things through your hands, and everything is natural. You can't think. You do not have time. All you have is your reflexes. I have been at the center of a media circus. A human interest story, good copy. It just so happens that what I love to do and what I'm good at is on TV. A long time ago, I was told that if things were good for me and I did well on the track, I was gonna kind of turn a lot of heads. I would be lying if I told you that I didn't like to hear people, cheering for me. At times, people focus more on my attributes than my qualifications as a driver. I definitely believe that being a woman first and foremost, but being a good-looking woman has, jumped me over some hurdles to get to where I'm at. But it's not some magic potion that makes me fast out there. It's hard work. I didn't ask to become a sex symbol in the sport, but that is what evolved. That's what everything came to. That is what worked. But if doing things outside of your job starts to interfere or starts to distract you and pull you away from the things that are important and the things that you have to do, then that's bad. Then that's when you cheated yourself. I am a rookie. I am honored and awed to be here at Indy, but I am not afraid. Not succeeding is probably the scariest thing, scarier than crashing and hurting yourself, because I really feel like this is my purpose. This is what I'm here to do, and to not do it or not be successful makes me very sad to think about that. I am a race car driver. That is who I am. This is how I look, and one has nothing to do with the other.
The tale of the tape tells the story, folks. She's smaller than the trophy, but note please the 100 pounds. Robbie Gordon, who was here a year ago, but is now on the NASCAR circuit full time on this holiday weekend, has said unfair advantage. If I'm in the car, I weigh almost 200 pounds. And Todd Harris and Scott Goodyear are the gentlemen who are going to call this race. The wags around here are saying, folks, that the next time Robbie challenges Danica, get ready on salad, Robbie. Now, let's focus on Danica for a minute, Scott, because all of the publicity, all of the hype, can she win this, or are we simply overhyping this talented young woman?
Brett, well deserved, and I'll tell you why. Because she is fast. She knows what she needs to do in the race car. She's got a great team behind her. She's got great equipment. She has the Honda power plant, and the key thing is she has the desire to win. You watch this girl on the racetrack, very impressive, and if I look at her today, I say she is a contender, just can't make a rookie mistake.
We can never overlook the Roger Penske team here, Todd.
Oh boy, this is the year of the super team, Brent, and you talk about Roger Penske. This is a guy who really has coined the phrase Penske perfect. Everything he does down to every detail is done right, and he has got two great drivers, the dynamic duo of Helio Castroneves and Sam Hornish Jr. And look at this graphic. Look at that winning percentage. As you talk about a dynasty, Yankees, Celtics, Canadians, and Cowboys, they all trail Roger Penske.
You know, Scott, and Freddie Green, we can't overlook them this year.
One of the top super teams, and I think simply from the point that they won the championship last year, they're ahead in the points right now with Danny Weldon. Four great drivers, great engineering, and you know something, Tony Kanaan is a guy that is going to go out today and I think probably lead this race and has a great chance also.
Well, Vince Welch have been standing by with two of their driving superstars.
Thank you, Brent. When you talk favorites today, pole winner Tony Kanaan and series points front runner Dan Weldon are certainly two of the leaders, roles that both are familiar with. Tony, from the time that you were a teenager and your father passed away and you had the responsibility of being the family leader and the family provider, how has that pressure kind of changed or altered your perspective on the challenge today?
Well, you said it all. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. So today it's like, it's not an easy day for sure, but I mean, in comparison to that, it's nothing. So obviously, nothing in my life came easy for me. So I'm not expecting this race to be any easy.
You won the series championship a year ago, but how about the possibility of winning the race today? What would that mean?
It's going to mean everything. Definitely, it's going to, complete my sweep if I can do that. So we have the car. I think we have three teammates that can help me out if I need to or if they need to. So I would say we have a good chance.
Dan Weldon is his teammate. He's won 3 of the 4 races so far this season. You start 16th today. How aggressive will you be at the start of the race to get up to the front?
Well, I was very disappointed with my qualifying effort, so I got Kanaan pulling faces at me. But, I'm going to try and get to the front as quick as possible. It's a 500-mile race, so there's not as big a rush as sometimes needed, but, it's certainly nice to be there, so that's what we're going to work towards. Hey, but where's Jamie? We much prefer being interviewed by Jamie, not you.
Well, we're going to throw it to her, but hey, you could have had Jack Arute, so it's not all that bad. Jamie Little is next up. Jamie.
Oh, good old Danny Weldon. Well, Vince, Roger Penske is going for an unprecedented 14th victory here in Indianapolis, and he has 2 drivers that could do the job today. First up, Sam Hornish Jr. He's the winningest driver in the IndyCar series. However, he has not won the 500. Sam, in 5 starts, your best finish has been 14th. What is so difficult about Indy?
I don't know. First couple times I came here, I really didn't know what it took to do well in this race, and then the last couple times it just seemed like it's bad luck. So hopefully we've got a little bit of that inexperience and a little bit of that bad luck out of the way, and today we have a good run.
All right, Sam Hornish Jr. is all healed up. Now, Helio Castroneves is the only driver in the field that has 2 wins here. Helio, have you checked the tension on the fence lately?
Well, not yet. I want to make sure that today is at the right time, so hopefully we know the taste, we know how it's done. Hopefully we're going to do it.
Today could be 3.
Maybe. Let's go. Number 3.
Helio Castroneves starting in the middle of the second row behind his teammate and next to the rookie, Danica Patrick. Brent?
All right, Jamie, we see the band 3 doors down. When we continue, they're going to help us introduce you to the entire 33-car field. Welcome back, everybody. Our big party is about to begin, and several of these Indy drivers are helping Walt Disney World down in Florida celebrate the happiest celebration on earth. 50 years of Disney theme park magic. Ed Carpenter's there, former champion, Gilles de Ferran, and they got to check out lights, motors, action, extreme stunt show at the Disney MGM studio.
It's been nice having a couple professional drivers out here on the set. Right? You guys have fun with the intense training program?
It's been awesome.
All right, good deal.
All right, boys, see if you can get me.
I think I'm catching him.
Here we go for the jump.
Man, that was big.
This is kind of exciting.
That was awesome.
That was great, huh? Better not try that at Indy, I tell you.
That's not going to win any races.
And no doubt Ed Carpenter driving the number 20 car in row 9 will find today easier. And now, race fans, we have a special appearance by one of the most popular rock bands in the world. They've sold over 12 million records. They've had 6 #1 hits. Singing their first smash hit, as we introduce the starting field to you, here's 3 Doors Down singing Kryptonite.
I will keep you took for granted. All the times I never let you down. You stumbled in and bumped your head. If not for me, you'd be dead. I picked you up and put you back on solid ground. If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side, my superhuman, my kryptonite.
And now let's meet the drivers for the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. In row 11, number 48, Felipe Giafone. Number 91, Jimmy Kite. And number 22, Jeff Ward. In row 10, number 41, Larry Foyt. Number 25, Marty Roth. And number 14, A.J. Foyt IV. In row 9, number 21, Jacques Lazier. Number 20, Ed Carpenter. And number 83, Patrick Carpentier. In row 8, number 33, Ryan Briscoe. And in the middle, the fastest qualifier and making his return to IndyCar Series competition, the 1999 Indian champ, Kenny Breck. And number 51, Alex Barron. In row 7, number 44, Jeff Bucknam. Number 70, Richie Hearn. And number 10, Darren Manning. In row 6, number 7, Brian Herta. Number 24, Roger Yasukawa. And number 26, three-time winner this season, Dan Weldon. In row 5, number 37, Sebastian Bourdais. Number 5, Adrian Fernandez. And 2003 IndyCar Series champion, number 9, Scott Dixon. In row 4, number 36, Bruno Yanquera. Number 4, Thomas Schechter. And number 2, Thomas Inge. In row 3, the 1996 500 champion, number 95, Buddy Lazier. Number 55, Hosky Matsura. And number 17, Vitor Mira. In row 2, number 27, Dario Franchitti. Then the two-time Indy winner, number 3, Elio Castroneves. And inside row 2, rookie sensation, number 16, Danica Patrick. And the front row, starting on the outside, making his 11th Indy 500 start, 2001 pole winner, number 8, Scott Sharp. In the middle of the front row, two-time IndyCar Series champion, Defiance, Ohio, Sam Hornish Jr., driving the number 6. And finally, our pole sitter, driving for Michael Andretti and Andretti Green Racing, the 2004 IndyCar Series champion, last year's Indy 500 runner-up. Here's Tony Kanaan driving, number 11. Ladies and gentlemen, the Superman and one Superwoman are ready to race. continue with our coverage of the 89th Indianapolis 500 on ABC in just a moment. No place produces better human interest stories than the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. As we take a look at an earlier shot inside the Schmidt garage, there is Sam and his father Marv right behind him. And you know, Sam was the owner today of the Richie Hearn car, which will start from row 7, and he himself raced in 3 Indy 500s. A testing accident in Florida left him paralyzed in 2000. But Sam would not give up on the sport he loved. He found the financial backing to fund an Indy team. Friday, his car won the Fataba 100. Today, he'll try to fulfill his dream and win the 500. Jim McKay picks up the story.
It was August of 1974. I just got a call that he had been injured racing, and I just felt he'd bounced back, you know, and he was indestructible, like I think most kids think their father is.
The Schmidt family has always been a racing family. Marv Schmidt loved to race cars, and young Sam was following in his father's footsteps. But when Marv was hurt in a crash that resulted in paralysis, it shook the young son's faith. Sam walked away from the sport for more than a decade, but the lure of the track eventually drew him back in.
You kind of get this bug, and I don't know whether it's genetic, I don't know whether it's just an addiction or what, but I was just drawn to it.
I got a phone call from Sam's mother, and she said that Sam had an accident at the track.
They had a tough time getting him out of the car, and then I found out he wasn't breathing for about 4 minutes. So we rode on the helicopter to the hospital, and about an hour later they told me the bad news, and but that was tough.
Lightning had struck twice. 26 years after his father was paralyzed, Sam Schmidt, while testing in Orlando, crashed. The accident crushed his C3 to C5 vertebrae, leaving him a quadriplegic. When the doctors gave Marv Schmidt his son's prognosis, the news was devastating. They told Marv that Sam was going to be on a ventilator for the rest of his life, and it would be best to put his son in a nursing home.
That just wasn't an option. That just wasn't an option.
What you don't know about Marv Schmidt is that 6 months after doctors told him that he would never walk again, he proved them wrong. And now once more, it was time for the son to follow in his father's footsteps. It is his father's resolve that has helped inspire Sam to keep hope that he too will get up out of his wheelchair and never let paralysis stop him from pursuing his dreams.
I was home 30 days, and I said, you know, this isn't going to work. I got to find something to do. For me, that was racing.
The sport that has taken so much away has drawn Sam Schmidt back in once again. But the amount of pain and sacrifice his family has endured because of this sport is not lost on him.
If there's any huge thing that's tough for me to handle in my situation, it's, you know, what I've had to put my family through, you know, to deal with my dreams. I mean, it wasn't my wife's dream to race at the Indy 500, and certainly wasn't my dad or mom's dream, but yet they've had to deal with all of the after effects of this injury.
In racing, my worst case scenario was that Sam would be killed. And I knew that that was always something that could possibly happen to him. But I'd take this over death. I'd rather have him. I didn't marry him because he could walk.
It may seem kind of twisted, because a lot of people ask me, how can you be involved in racing when that's what puts you in the wheelchair? But I just don't look at it like that. I mean, competing at the Indy 500 and IndyCar was all I wanted to do since I was 5 years old. So I guess to some extent I knew the risk, and it's better than not being there at all.
There are some things in life that are hard to measure. The strength of family is one. The desire to pursue your passion, regardless of the risk, is another. Sam Schmidt seems to have an abundance of both. It's the motivation that he has pulled from his family, be it seeing his dad walk again or to once again hug his wife and children, that has gotten him here, back to the Brickyard, where he belongs.
When I roll through Gasoline Alley and there's just thousands of people screaming your name and I can't hold back the goosebumps. You know, it's just like you get this chill. And God, you know, if our car could come across the finish line first, I'd probably wind up running over a few people getting to Victory Circle, and I'd probably wind up wearing most of the milk because I wouldn't be able to pour it myself, but you know, that wouldn't be a half bad thing either.
How special would it be here today if Richie Hearn in car number 70 can lead Spencer and Savannah's father into the winner's circle? We'll continue with our coverage from Indianapolis in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Master Sergeant Sandra Brown.
And I'm Sergeant First Class Scott Speaks.
Welcome, Indy race fans. It's Memorial Day weekend, and you're watching the Indy 500 with us, live from downtown Baghdad.
I'd like to say hello to my wife, Tanya, and my sons, Sean, Michael, and Joseph.
I'd like to put a shout out to all my families and friends, and Kenny, I love you.
Also want to give a shout out to Buddy Lazier to win that whole thing. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Hey, Mom.
Have a happy Memorial Day and enjoy the Indy 500.
And our thoughts and prayers are with all our servicemen and women overseas today. And now, folks, for the next 15 minutes, some of the greatest traditions in all of sport. And we will start by joining PA announcer Dave Calabro.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a truly great American. General Colin Powell is with us today.
Good morning, everyone. I cannot tell you how honored I am to be here at this wonderful place to participate in perhaps the greatest sporting event in the world, right here in Indianapolis every year. I'm looking forward to driving the marvelous Corvette pace car that has been assigned to me and to give the start to this wonderful race. And I wish the best to all of the 33 crews that are participating in this. I'm also honored to be here with the troops in front of you, but remember that these marvelous troops in front of you represent tens of thousands of your fellow Americans in uniform who are serving all over the world. Let them hear from you how you treasure their service. In Afghanistan, in Iraq, at Camp Victory in Baghdad, and all around the world, these men and women are serving so that we can be free, and so that the world, with each passing day, can be freer. But it sometimes costs, and we know the pain of loss. We have with us today families of 20 Hoosiers who've lost their lives. They are sitting off to my right, and our hearts go out to them. Let them hear from you how much you appreciate what they have done. Thank you, and now let's have a great race. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your hats for the singing of our national anthem. Staff Sergeant Ramil Schaefer-Hardy, United States Marine Corps, Staff Sergeant Mark Roberts, musician 3rd Class Cheryl E. Wirt, and Senior Airman Justin Allen, accompanied by the Purdue University Band. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.
Less than 40 days ago, this man, Major Art Floru of the Rhode Island National Guard, returned from his tour of duty in the Middle East. And Art, the connection with the people over there in Afghanistan and in the Middle East to sports is so very important.
Jack, I am absolutely blown away by the expression of gratitude from all of the people here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway over the last couple of days. A debt of gratitude to everyone serving, to my brothers and sisters in arms deployed at the moment. This is what it's about. It's an incredible show of American freedom. Never forget American freedom. This has been outstanding, Jack. I have to take a moment on this Memorial Weekend to mention all those that have fallen. From everyone here and all across America, please accept our debt of gratitude. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you for the freedom.
It can't be said any better than that. Jamie? Jerry?
Well, Jack, despite a crash in the early moments of Carb Day on Friday that required 17 hours to repair this car, many so-called experts have this man, the 1996 winner Buddy Lazier, listed as a dark horse to win it all. Lazier, the quickest Chevrolet in the field, starts in ninth spot. He's climbed in early to check out the repaired electronics, says everything's okay, very confident in what could happen today for this team. Vince?
Scott Sharp a year ago was a long shot at best, but an off-season switch to Fernandez Racing has made you a contender once again. You start from the outside of row one today. Scott, what is your strategy at the beginning of this race?
Well, I really am very confident in this whole Delphi Fernandez team. It's important for us to just get settled in. I know we have a quick race car. We want to lead the last few laps of this thing, not as nearly as concerned about the beginning. So we just need to have an efficient day, good pit stops, run hard, and I think we'll end up real strong.
Scott Sharp kind of flown under the radar so far this month, but definitely a contender here in the 89th Indy 500. Jamie?
Well, Vince, Dario Franchitti making his third appearance at the Indianapolis 500. His wife, Ashley, just wrapped a movie last night, flew in just in time. His dad, his brother are here. Dario, how important is it for you to have your
dad here as always? My brother's here, of course, my wife. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law is great. I just wish my mom and my sister were here as well to make it complete. It's just nice to have them here. It makes it feel like home.
And I know they're at home watching right now. Dario Franchitti starts on the outside of row 2. Brent?
All right, Jamie, thank you. Folks, you've been watching the Firestone Race Day show as we now get ready for the most famous command in motor racing. That is next on ABC. Welcome you back, and last Monday, all 33 drivers were taken to New York. They posed for a photograph at Times Square. Danica Patrick made 27 television appearances that day as we close in on Speed City's most famous event.
Trouble doesn't lurk in a place like this. It stands smack in the middle of the road. It throws punches every corner. It threatens you down every straightaway. Welcome to Speed City.
Well, I've seen a lot of things out here at the Speedway. I just saw Reggie Miller blush for the first time, though, because they were chanting Reggie, Reggie behind the stands. They love you here in Indiana. What do you think of the Speedway?
Oh, this is unbelievable. It's somewhat surreal. I mean, to actually be Grand Marshal of the parade and then to actually start the race the next day. It's awe-inspiring. We were in the room together with these other great athletes, and I'm taken back.
In just a few minutes, Reggie will be dropping the green flag as the race gets underway. Brent, back to you.
All right, Penn, and of course he's one of the great sports heroes here in the city of Indianapolis, retiring from the Pacers. But you know, folks, we can never forget what Memorial Day stands for. From the beaches of Normandy to the dusty alleys of Iraq, we remember all of those who paid the ultimate price.
Ladies and gentlemen, his voice has become an institution at this giant race. Here to perform back home again in Indiana is our good friend, Mr. Jim Neighbors.
And now to say the most famous words in motorsports. Ladies and gentlemen, my privilege to introduce the chairperson of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Mary Holman George.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Privilege of attending a lot of big events. Nothing comes close to the first lap of the Indianapolis 500. We now turn you over to the gentleman who will be calling today's race, Todd Harris and Scott Goodyear. Todd.
Thank you very much, Brent. Great to have you with us here. And Scotty, as a guy who's driven this race 11 times, what are the drivers thinking right now?
You know, and Brent said it so well, you know, just this event, I mean, I'm getting the emotion going right now. You know, you get goosebumps going up your back because you're so excited. All month here, you've been here working for this moment. All the festivities, all the sponsor functions are gone. Over 37,000 miles these drivers and teams have actually participated in this month in testing. But right now, it's all up to the drivers, Todd.
There is so much skill, so much talent. And one guy out there I trust my life with, Dario Franchitti, number 27. And here's why.
Well, folks, there's toys, there's big boy toys, and then there's Dario Franchitti toys. Dario, your latest toy, tell me about it.
This is my my new Eurocopter AS350 B3.
Can we take it for a spin?
Yeah, we certainly can.
Absolutely, let's do it.
The turn one looks a lot different from up here. The first lap of the race anyway, and then if your first lap flat, you actually don't believe that you can make it flat. Turn two here it's been really tricky all month. I don't know why. Obviously Buddy crashed here, and a couple other guys did Manning as well. Up into turn three, the turn one and turn three feel almost identical. Before that there was always a turn one always was very, very tricky on entry. They've fixed that now, so one and three are very similar. And up to turn four, very similar to turn two. Not quite as challenging this year. And then, yeah, coming off there, you want to get a good run off there down the start-finish straight, I guess, as you say, one of the most famous, if not the most famous start-finish straight in the world, past the pagoda. That is a lap of Indianapolis.
Well, all eyes have certainly been on this race this month, but most of the eyes have been on Danica Patrick. You know, she stayed very focused all month despite all the media attention, thanks in large part to her family. Her mom, Bev, joined here right now. Bev, your little girl is now one of 33 drivers in her first 500. What are your emotions?
Totally off the charts. I've had a real roller coaster of emotions this morning. Just absolute joy and jubilation of being at the biggest spectacle of motorsports in the world, and to be starting fourth and a chance to win this race your first time out, I guess it's called priceless. And
what did you tell her when she got in the car?
I just said, be safe, Godspeed, and go 500 miles. That's all she has to do.
Bev and TJ Patrick very close to their daughter Danica Patrick. All eyes are focused on her right now as she starts her first 500. Jack?
Jamie, look out. Speed City is under a hurricane warning. What we're talking about is after these preliminary laps, these 33 drivers will come up to speed for the first time all month all together. It's not about the 4 corners. It's about the 800 turns. They tell me it's the first drive to 223 miles an hour into turn 1 that is absolutely the scariest. They're coming down preliminarily now, but believe me when I tell you, Jerry, we're about to hit not the eye of the storm, but total chaos here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Well, typically, Jack, there are more mistakes made right here on pit road in the Indy 500 than any other race all year long because the pressure is huge here. But consider the numbers. 33 teams send 6 members over the wall for each stop in the danger zone. Times an average of 7 stops. That's 1,400 appearances by these brave guys during the Indy 500. Now, if one slip or one stumble will cost you seconds, one loose wheel nut could cost you the race, or even worse. There is absolutely no margin for error here. Vince?
While the technical aspects, the 800 left turns, and the multiple pit stops are indeed critical, the Indianapolis 500 is also about the dream. The racing drivers grow up watching the Indy 500, wanting to race here, win here. There are boys and girls all over the world, my own son included, watching this telecast, dreaming of a day when they may cross the yard of bricks and drink the milk at Indianapolis. For one of these 33 drivers here today, that dream is about to come true. Todd?
Thank you very much, Vince. Scott Goodyear, take us through the Budweiser keys to the race.
Well, we talk about lap 1, turn 1. You know you can lose this race in the very first turn here, but you certainly won't win it because you have to last 500 miles. Patience. It's going to be especially interesting to see Kenny Brack. He's got the fastest car out there possibly, but starting back in 23rd. Lap 180, I always waited to that point because it becomes a sprint race at that point in time, and 32% of the people that are around at lap 180 leading do not win. Lady luck, you got to have a little bit of luck, Todd, to be able to get through this event.
And there's a nice look at the Corvette convertible official pace car of the 2005 Indy 500. And behind the wheel this year, former Secretary of State, General Colin Powell. And Scott, I think he's having fun.
You know, he said he has a Corvette at home, so obviously he's a car lover. And, you know, I got to believe, Todd, driving a Corvette around here, though, is probably better than driving the Corvette around your neighborhood.
No question about it. The sky is picture perfect blue. The track surface, fantastic. The drivers are ready to go. They've talked about it. 33 of the absolute best in the world here now.
And Todd, you talk about 33. Think about 33 dreams are going on here right now, but there's only one that's going to be reality today.
Let's talk about the Newman Haas team. They come here to Indianapolis fresh off a win down in Monterrey, Mexico at the GP of Monterrey. Who do you like here?
Well, you know, I think Junqueira really has the knack of this track, and when speaking with Sebastian Bourdais, he said, you know, really have a situation here where it's a lot faster than I'm used to.
There you see the entire field as they come down the back straightaway. What an impressive view.
One of the key things here for Tony Kanaan, he wants to be the teammate right now. That gets the first win for Michael Andretti here at Indianapolis.
Back it up a little, 17. Back it up, 17.
It's a spectacle, 200 laps and 500 miles in the making. The green flag is out. Let the chase begin. The 89th Indy 500 is on.
Green flag, green flag, green flag.
Over 200 miles an hour into turn 1, Todd, and it's a very tricky time of the race.
Patience is the key. Danica said she'd have it. She has done just that. We are through the most critical portion into that turn, Scott. It's like a thundering herd of man and machine as they start to spread out just a little bit. But out in front, your pole sitter, number 11, Tony Kanaan, leads them out. And look at this. Sam Hornish Jr. makes a quick pass and goes to the lead.
Been quietly working hard all month, so focused. He's never had luck at this racetrack. He said it before. He wants to win this for Roger Penske.
Scott, this is something we did not predict at all. And of course, this racetrack, nothing is predictable. Sam Hornish is not the kind of guy we thought would go out and chase us. We thought it'd be maybe a Danica or a Scott Sharp move, but here it is, Sam Hornish Jr. going to the front of the pack. Tony Kanaan, the green and white, the pole sitter, sits in second. Dario Franchitti has also moved up. So it's Team Penske right now sitting on the top. Kanaan, Franchitti go 2 and 3 and more movement in the back. And there's no surprise. Number 4, Thomas Scheckter in the silver Platinum Panther car. He is on the move.
Now, Todd, you see a lot of sparks coming off the back of those cars. Remember, cold tire pressures right now as go along with Thomas Scheckter in the Pennzoil machine. And Kanaan's having a look now, Todd, right down the inside.
This is what we expected from the Brazilian, Tony Kanaan, as he takes it to the inside, gets past Sam Hornish Jr. Tony Kanaan was your pole sitter, yielded it for a lap, maybe got a look behind Sam Hornish Jr., but got it over 220 miles an hour. Pretty gutsy move there in turn 1.
Gutsy, there's a lot of pride going on here right now, Todd, not only for the drivers, but also for their teams. He wants the Andretti green car out front. And I mentioned the sparks a moment ago. Remember those cold tire pressures? After a few laps, the pressures will build up, help lift the car off the ground. The other key thing is full fuel, 30 gallons of fuel. Once the fuel burns off, they'll start to lighten up the cars, and that will also help with the sparks.
So your leader is the green car. That is not going to last for long as Sam Hornish comes right back in the same spot and turns the trick on Tony Kanaan. Sam Hornish Jr. back to the front. Tony Kanaan, the green and white car, the number 11, sits in second. His teammate behind him, number 27, Dario Franchitti. And now into the mix is Elio Castroneves, number 3, that man's teammate.
And Todd, they're doing it in turn 1, one of the toughest turns on this racetrack, because you come down at over 200 miles an hour, going up towards 220 as you enter the turn, and it's just a mountain of people there in turn 1. You can't see around the corner, but everybody right now is actually standing up on their feet watching this great show between these drivers.
4 laps complete, and they are completely mastering turn number 1, Scott. This really surprises me. I would expect something like this in the short shoot, but Hornish and Kanaan are going mano-a-mano in turn 1.
And right now, the guy that's starting to take advantage of those 2 cars in front, Dario Franchitti, right now, 27, the 3rd guy in that draft. He's going to take advantage of those 2 guys in front, cutting the air for him. You know something? I'm a little surprised about Franchitti. Usually a quiet driver that sits back, but right now he's getting juiced also.
And if you're wondering, number 16, Danica Patrick, she currently sits in 6th place as we go on board the number 27 of Dario Franchitti, married to Ashley Judd. This guy is as cool as they come, both on and off the track. Had a chance, Scott, to ride in his helicopter. He is a wonderful individual. Trust him with my life, and right now he sits in 3rd at the greatest spectacle of racing.
Look how those cars move around. He just downshifts from 6th down to 5th, going into turn 1. Right down below the white line, coming out of turn 2, down that 5/8 of a mile back straightaway. Watch his right hand over here just to turn around and see if he actually turns around and switches up a gear. There we go, top gear.
Riding on board the Arc X, that is Dario Franchitti, number 27 in the blue and white. He currently sits in 3rd place. Just ahead of him is Tony Kanaan, and Sam Hornish Jr. is your leader. We are now on board with 16, the rookie sensation. This is Danica Patrick trying to do something that no woman has done before, win or lead the Indy 500. She currently sits in 6th place. So far, so good for her, Scott. We talked to her about the intimidation factor of the Indy 500 running with 33 of the best open-wheel drivers in the world, and she is holding her own.
Todd, just coming here as a rookie, I can recall it as if it was yesterday, but just all the pressure that's on you as a rookie driver, let alone the attention she's had as a female right now as she looks towards Scott Sharp.
23-year-old Danica Patrick out of Roscoe, Illinois, the rookie, as she goes through the sparks coming off the back of Scott Sharp. Danica Patrick, do you like the line she's taking? She is coming very low on that white line.
Very smooth right now. She's got a little bit of steering going into her car as I watched her steering wheel. And here we go, Tony Kanaan again.
Kanaan gets a run on the back of Sam Hornish Jr., gets just enough of a draft to pull out. And look at this, Sam Hornish Jr. finds himself in a wasp nest as he's got the Andretti Green team surrounding him.
Here we go with Franchitti, going to get that toe off the car in front, that red and white Marlboro machine, the 27 right there, blue and white of Franchitti, having a look on the inside.
Dario Franchitti makes a perfect move on Sam Hornish Jr., and this is something the rest of the field cannot like to see. Two Andretti Green teams out in front. Scott, do they work as a team now?
Well, they'd be smart if they would do to try and pull away from Sam Hornish Jr., but you know something? Race day is different than qualifying day. Surprised to see Hornish up there in the front row of the Toyota, but Roger Penske said the other night they were working on engines all this week, flew them back, put them in the car for carburation day, thinks that they have an answer for Honda.
Give you some speeds, folks. Tony Kanaan just turned a 225.4, but the fastest lap turned in by Thomas Scheckter at 226. As we get a look at Danica Patrick continuing to run safely in 6th place. We have got a long way to go, a great race. It's the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. We'll be back with much more after this message and a word from our ABC stations. The smile that would be upon the face of Ray Haroon, the winner of the first Indianapolis 500 back in 1911. Providing aerial coverage for today's race is Freedom, the Ameriquest mortgage blimp, as we welcome you back to the greatest racetrack in the world. It's the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. Todd Harris along with Scott Goodyear. Tony Kanaan continues to lead. Dario Franchitti in 2nd, Sam Hornish Jr. in 3rd. Danica Patrick has now moved up to 5th place, Scott. And there you see the legend of women drivers who have come through here. Sarah Fisher, the most recent back in 2000. Lynn St. James, Janet Guthrie, who started it all back in 1977. Scott, we have talked so much about Janet Guthrie and her abilities. If she had the same equipment that Danica has, do you think she would have done better?
I think Danica's definitely got the best equipment of any of the ladies actually that have come here, but watch her right now. Getting a draft right now, going up behind. Will he make? Yeah, it's Elio. Looking at Elio.
Inside, clear.
Elio left her room. See, he left her a lane on the lower side. She left-hand wheels are actually right down the white lane. Wow. She's going to come out of 2 now. Look for the draft again. Watch, she just caught a shift right here with her right hand. She's going to turn around and probably get the draft. He's running the low line right now, wants to protect his turn, make her move to the outside. I'll tell you something, though, the IRL is not going to like that. Danica is trying to really push herself through. There's been 187 men lead this race, Todd, and she wants to be the first woman. She is driving the wheels off that car.
Lap 16 of 200 on a picture-perfect day here in Indianapolis. We are on board with Danica Patrick. Now back to the field. Now here's the problem. Tony Kanaan, your leader, the green car, number 11. He is being followed by the 27 of Dario Franchitti in the blue and red. Scott, the problem is they are into lap traffic now.
Already, and just working on lap 17. Pretty amazing. Shows you the pace of these guys up front right now. I've always said that there's the lead group, a middle pack, and then there's the guys that are in the back. And this is when it becomes very dangerous, Todd. You really have to get your timing down about when you're going to pass the cars in front and listen to the spotters. Here he goes right now past Larry Foyt.
Tony Kanaan, so very smooth, our leader, number 11. This is his 4th Indy start, 4th Indy 500 that he has led. He's led a total of 53 laps coming into this year's race. Finished 3rd in 03, finished 2nd in 04. Looking for the Borg Warner Trophy this year as they make another turn into turn 1.
Those front 3 guys, right now, we got a spin right now with the Vision cars. And very lucky.
It's one of the Vision cars, as you pointed out, Scotty, to the inside as we get a closer look there. He comes down at the inside, out of the way. Oh, it's an ABC car. So that is one of A.J. Foyt, the 4th cars right now, coming down to the inside. Now, Larry Foyt, number 41, came in earlier during the commercial break and had some pit work done. But the tail is smashed, folks, so we can't tell you exactly who it is yet because the cars are painted exactly the same.
And very close to the Vision colors also. Very difficult to see sometimes. But the car actually right now was
it's the 41.
Into the 41, so there you go.
It's Larry Foyt. Now he is the son of A.J. Foyt. Let's watch again.
Just to the middle of the turn, you'll see the back end of the car come around. Remember, they just came in and made a change to the car possibly, but probably even cold tires, Todd, because it gets into the middle of the turn where the maximum G's are on the car, still hits a safer barrier, and look at Elio Castroneves just missed that at over 220 miles an hour. Isn't that exceptional driving? Let's go on board right now.
This is on board with Scott Sharp.
all happens in front of you. When the debris starts to fall, Todd, it happens very quickly. It just showers down on top of you, hits inside your cockpit on top of your helmet, and boy, you're just glad that you miss everything.
Scott Sharp was running in 7th place right there, but I think, Scotty, you pointed out the best. Elio Castroneves did a masterful job getting around the accident of Larry Foyt, the number 41 car. More information on Larry Foyt when we come back. 19 laps completed the Indianapolis 500. We're back with more after this. Folks, last night, Tim Duncan and the Spurs took a 3-0 lead on the Suns and are now 1 win away from a trip to the finals. Tomorrow night, it's do or die for league MVP Steve Nash and company as they try to fight off elimination in Game 4. Tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on ABC Sports, home of the NBA Finals. As we welcome you back to Indianapolis, and they continue to try to remove the car, number 41 of Larry Foyt, the son of legendary A.J. Foyt. On a picture-perfect day here in Indianapolis, they have got a yellow, so they will bunch the field back up as they remove the debris from the field. We go down on pit row, and we check in with Jamie Little.
Well, Todd, it has not been good from the get-go here in the number 41 pits. They got loose off the start. They came in, they made some adjustments. Larry stalled it about 4 different times trying to exit pit road. Once he was out there, he said, I still have the problem. They said, hey, you're about to get lapped, be careful. And right when that happened, his car broke out and he hit the wall. Now, at this moment, they have not had any radio communication with Larry. We're going to go back to the medical center and give you guys an update as we get it.
All right, thank you very much, Jamie. Good news on Larry Foyt. That's the most important thing, Scott, that he's fine and he's up and waving to the fans, but we saw the same thing with Buddy Rice.
Well, I'll just tell you very quickly, from the accident that I saw right now, the car did not get hit its wheel first going into the wall, Todd. What ends up happening when the gearbox hits it, it actually transfers all that energy through the gearbox and the bell housing, the engine, and the key thing right now is that, you know, that goes right into the driver's cockpit. I had an accident like that a few years ago and actually broke my back, so those ones are dangerous. It doesn't look spectacular, but very, very bad.
This is on board with Danica Patrick. Now watch this.
She gets a run off the traffic coming off of 4. Elio got hung up. Whoa! Looks like probably Tonga Enge possibly coming in there and having a look.
Now listen to the traffic.
Man, I look at that every time, and I can't believe that he did that.
Back down, go high, go high, go high. Right there in the middle, right there in the middle. You're clear, clear all of it.
And using the warm-up access lane, smart move by Thomas Schechter.
As they come down pit row, we check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
60 miles an hour down pit road. Elio Castroneves said, look at the right front wing. I may have damaged the wing when that car came off the wall. They have a wing standing by. He also wants an air pressure adjustment because the car is very, very loose in turns 1 and 2. Let's check in Jackaroo.
Well, Jerry, your leader, Tony Kanaan, got all the way with a change in air pressure only. Now it's the battle back to the line at the end of the speed limit. And Kenny Brack is pulled on to pit road. Brack is trying to battle from that 23rd starting spot, being very methodical, very slow, getting out of the pit box very nicely. Now this will reshuffle things at that white line to see who will lead this Indianapolis 500.
You can see the frenetic pace that takes place there on pit row, Scott. It's 11 seconds of doom or glory, and it looked like Elio Castroneves did a pretty good job. Tony Kanaan, we've talked about his pit problems earlier in the year, especially at St. Pete, but he was fantastic there.
You know, a big moment for drivers. You come in there, your heart's racing, you know something, because you know you can win or lose it in the pitch, and your guys, their heart racing is also going very, very quick.
So Tony Kanaan is your leader. There's number 27, Dario Franchitti, his teammate, part of the Andretti Green team. He currently sits in 2nd place. Danica Patrick is looking to be sitting in 3rd right now, Scott, but she may be back out of sequence.
All right, nice steady throttle here under yellow. We'll save some fuel. We'll give you a bit to warm them up. There's plenty of time to warm them up.
So talking about saving fuel, don't go up and down the throttle pedal. It uses fuel. You don't want to use up fuel. Fuel setting right now will be actually setting way back, running lean. There's number 70, the Meyer car of Richie Hearn. We saw that very compelling story earlier with Sam Schmidt. He's going to make a late pit stop right now.
Well, we're getting word that Danica Patrick may have a penalty coming. This is coming from race control. Now, we talked about the pit, Scott, being so important. They say she might have run over the air hose on her exit, which is a no-no.
Brian Barnhart, who's the one that usually actually stands up and top right there. The president of the Indy Racing League and also the master of this event.
We're going to take a replay of this one more time. Danica Patrick as she comes into pit row.
Now the hose is actually Scott Sharp that's running over the hose. You can see the hose right here going along, and it was actually just Sharp coming through and running over her hose going into his pit box. It'll be interesting to see if he gets the infraction.
Let's send it down to Dr. Jerry Punch.
We are in the Danica Patrick pit with Ray Lito. And Ray, what is race control telling you about what happened when she was leaving pit road?
They were actually just talking about Scott Sharp bumped over our right front hose coming into his pit box, so that's what they were talking about. Did you hear something else?
No, how is she doing thus far? I hear you guys very pleased with what she's doing on the racetrack, particularly using the inside lane.
Yeah, she's. I think we've got a good car in traffic, and she's able to figure out, what the guys are doing in front of us. She's just making adjustments in the cockpit to compensate for the understeer we've got. Car's pretty good so far. It's still pretty early to tell, but I think we're pretty good.
All right, Ray Lito will be calling the shots for Danica Patrick. Very, very confident that she's gotten even more comfortable here in the first few laps and can just hang there and be a factor in the final laps.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jerry Punch. Well, Scott, this is really the calm before the storm as we are 22 laps into this 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. Right now, scoring shows us that it's Tony Kanaan, your leader, Dario Franchitti second, Danica Patrick in third. There's Scott Sharp. He's already come into his pits, and I think if there's an incident, it happened just before there.
Yes, it did actually. It happens with his left front coming in, going across the box that's just preceding yours, and actually that's a very common thing. Everybody likes to move out of the way, but in the end result, that's what happens. Now watch for the right front hose right up here. I would have been able to show you that with that pan going left towards the fueling. There's the fueling that happened actually with the Danica Patrick car.
And Sharp was still in the pits when she came out.
And now watch the hose on the left-hand side. Definitely running over the hose on the way in, so they'll have a look at that and decide whether or not the hose was actually inside their box or had crossed over into his box.
Now, Scott, folks at home are probably saying, big deal, it's an air hose. What's the problem with that? It didn't look like it impeded his entry into his pit area.
Well, it doesn't, but let's listen to his spotter right now. I think they're telling Scott that they're looking at the replay right now. Brian Barnhart, who we mentioned before, would be looking at a replay up in race control, deciding whether or not that would be an infraction. You ask why? Well, the key thing is that everybody has a 47-foot pit box right now, and the key thing is that they don't want you traveling inside the other person's box. So
Let's check in with Jack.
Well, guys, we've been treated to a dandy battle up front. First Sam Hornish, then Tony Kanaan, back and forth. And I want to show you what Sam Hornish's team did in the Marlboro Team Penske. On that pit stop, they did what we call add one turn of wing. This little knob will turn this screw device here. Now, what it does, it doesn't move forward or backwards, but if we come around to the side here of the car, the cutaway car, it changes the angle of attack of this front wing, which creates the airflow and the downforce. Sam Hornish Jr. needed a little bit more on the nose, and now they've made that adjustment. Let's watch to see if they turn the ratchet up again when we go to green. Vince?
Pit problems for not only Richie Hearn, but also Alex Barron. Barron came in, did a pit stop, got the 4 tires, but they could not get fuel in the car. They had a fuel hose issue, so he had to go back out and come back in a second time while they worked on the fuel hose and top off the tank. Richie Hearn missed his pit box the first time by. Richie Hearn had to go all the way around the track and then come back in on the second lap to get tires and fuel.
As they're bunching them up as they come down the front straightaway. Now 30 cars pitted on lap 21. Everyone pitted except Jimmy Kite and Darren Mann, and of course Larry Foyt, who's out. And there is Richie Hearn. Remember Brent talking about that. We have Jim McKay here voicing that piece. Sam Schmidt is his owner. How would it be for Richie Hearn to win this? That would be something else.
Wonderful for Sam Schmidt. Drove against him in my day. One of the most competitive guys that was there. Remember him winning at Las Vegas in his hometown after sitting on the pole. That was terrific.
Well, Kenny Breck, who we talked about, is filling in for Buddy Rice, who filled in for him. He started 23rd. He is now 14th. Dan Weldon, also a fast mover, started 16th. He is now up to 11th. Scott, not really a big surprise there.
No, patience is the key thing, and obviously we talked about that at the very beginning in the Budweiser notes, and I'll tell you something, he is a very smart race driver.
The green flag is out. We are back to full speed racing as the fans come to their feet as they come down the front straightaway at more than 220 miles an hour. Tony Kanaan leads them into the green. Look at Dario trying to the inside, gets it done. Dario Franchitti is now our new leader at the Indianapolis 500 in the blue and red ARCA X car. Tony Kanaan, his teammate, sits in second. Danica Patrick right there in fourth.
Driving hard, very quick movements by all the drivers here in the very first lap from the simple fact.
That was Danica getting passed on the inside.
Yep, watching the steering wheel right there, moving around a lot with the steering wheel, maybe not happy with whatever adjustments they did on the race car top.
Moments ago, Elio Castro-Neves and the 95 of Lazier. Watch this, the middle of your screen, the red and white car. Touch, and he gets right back. So Elio Castro-Neves will probably radio back to his pit area to check that left side. Same thing for Buddy Lazier, Buddy's brother Jacques also here. And Buddy Lazier running strong in 4th place right now. Danica Patrick has dropped back to 5th.
You know, my pick for the dark horse, simply because he is a guy that knows how to get through this race. I think he really felt that he had an opportunity with this car, even with the Chevrolet Taylor. People said it was down, but absolutely, I think the Chevrolet is on par with the other engines right now.
We are 28 laps complete of 200 as we check in with Jamie Little.
Well, Todd, we're back here at the medical center in the infield of the track. We're told Larry Foyt is awake and alert. He's complaining of some lower back pain, so they are going to transport him to the Methodist Hospital, where they're going to further evaluate him with more x-rays, and as soon as we get an update, we'll get it to you. Todd?
All right, thank you very much, Jamie. And that's we hate to see Larry Foyt go out like that. That takes us down to 32 active drivers as you go on board the 7-Eleven of Tony Kanaan, who currently is back out in front again, getting past his teammate Dario Franchitti.
Todd, remember, Buddy Lazier is finally getting to feel out this race car after not even turning a full speed lap in the final practice. As Jerry Punch told you at the beginning of the show, they had a suspension failure that hurtled the winner of the Indianapolis 500 into the wall. Thus far, the report on the car, quite obvious with the way he's running, going seesawing back in the top 10. But Buddy Lazier likes this Chevrolet bow tie powered car right now.
All right, thank you very much, Jack Arut. So as we go to the scoring, it is Tony Kanaan, your leader, followed by Dario Franchitti. Sam Hornish Jr. sits in 3rd, and Buddy Lazier sitting in 4th. Danica Patrick rounds out the top 5 here at the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. 29 laps in the book. We're back with much more after this short break. Welcome back inside the greatest racetrack in the world. It's the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. Your leader, number 11, Tony Kanaan, being chased by his teammate, number 27, Dario Franchitti. And Scott, during the commercial break, we talked about this. This is a very fast race.
Fast race, and right now led by this powerhouse team of Andretti Green, owned by Michael Andretti and crew. And I'll tell you something, they ground this racetrack here, Todd, because they repaved it last fall. They were not happy with the surface on it when they came and test, as we ride along right now with Tony Kanaan looking backwards towards Dario Franchitti. And back in April when the drivers drove it, they didn't like it. They found the grip inconsistent. Well, Tony George and the Speedway group with Brian Barnhart ground this racetrack and made it nice and smooth. So they've got a lot of grip right now throughout the whole entire track in the pit lane.
There is Kim Green, part of the Andretti Green ownership of Brian Herta, Tony Kanaan, Dan Weldon, and the man sitting in 2nd right now, Dario Franchitti. You talk about super teams, and when we were with Brent, we talked about the super teams of Penske, Andretti Green, Rahal, Letterman. It is so tough to compete with the Andretti Greens, especially this year with Dan Weldon, who's already reeled off 3 wins.
Absolutely, you know, just watch his hands movements now, because you have an opportunity to actually see the driver when they're inside the cockpit, not moving his hands very much. And the neat thing about that for me when I watch that is that he's so smooth right there. You know, he's not moving his hands very much at all. He's very concentrated and very deliberate. When we watched Danica's car a few moments ago after the stop when they made some changes, she was actually moving around a fair amount, and that just tells you how the car is working for her. See, she's seesawing right now at the wheel, telling me that her car is just a little bit nervous for her. She has to be a good communicator. She has to turn around as she's grabbing a gear there in the middle of the turn, very dangerous time, and she has to communicate with the team and tell them, hey, you know something, guys, this is what's happening with my race car. You need to fix it for me next stop.
Scott, here's a look at the Firestone telemetry for Danica Patrick. She's right on it. I mean, we talk about going flat, and for those fans who are just joining us because they want to see Danica, going flat means she has the throttle all the way down.
Absolutely, and that's the key thing about it right now with the throttle that you see. 100% around here, and the G-forces, right, will increase when you start to get into the turn, up to 3.5 to 4, maybe a little bit more. You can see the tire temperatures up in the green in the proper working order. She grabbed a gear going into the turn there because she's getting that dirty air from the car in front.
That's Jeff Ward, part of the Vision team. Oh my. Sam Hornish Jr., a very unconventional move. Not one, but two for the price of one, picking off two Andretti Dream teammates. You don't get those kind of deals very often, Scott.
Well, you know, he actually went to 7-Eleven right there and passed him by, didn't he? 2 for 1. Talk about a guy that gets 110% out of the car right now. I mean, I love that guy. Always drove the wheels off the car, anything he drives.
Sam Hornish Jr., this guy truly is an Iceman. And look at this, back in the pack. There's his teammate in the red and white car. That's Helio Castroneves, a 2-time winner. He's got some company right there. Dan Weldon, another quick mover, and another member of Andretti Green.
Absolutely. Vitor, Mira, and Weldon, Schechter, all those guys. What a bunch of tough competitors right there. I talked about the grinding of the racetrack, and that's the key thing. These guys got a lot of grip going through the turn. They can almost run 2 abreast through the turn if they both give way.
Folks, the speed's in excess of 224, 225 miles an hour, and they're pulling that kind of shenanigans, Scott. What are you drivers thinking?
Well, the thing is, I always say when you put the helmet on, Todd, put the visor down, you stop thinking. So that's probably what's happening out there.
This is going to replay one more time. This is the pass by Sam Hornish Jr. to the inside. Look at that.
A left-hand car right there. The green and white and blue is actually the car of Kite, who's actually a slower car right now, and that's usually what ends up happening.
There are great motorsports events at great venues around the world, but there is only one Indianapolis 500, and believe me, the buzz is back at the Brickyard. There are your Toyota lap leaders. Kanaan has 30 of them. Hornish Jr. 8, and Franchitti picked up the 1.
You know, Sam is a guy that's not led many laps here as we were riding with Tony Kanaan. Now we get a chance to see him, and Franchitti's going to have a look on the inside right now. There again, traffic playing a major role, Todd, going down the front straight.
On board with Dario Franchitti, now back on board with his teammate, the 11. That is Tony Kanaan, the man who had the pole, looking for his first ever Indianapolis 500 win, trying to get that victory for the Andretti Green team. Last year's winner, Buddy Rice, unable to race this year. He is being filled in for very capably by a past champion in Kenny Breck. Kenny Breck's teammate is Danica Patrick. There you see the family tree of racing. Danica Patrick right now sits in 5th place. Very comfortable, Scott. Very patient.
Very smart move. You know, she said she wasn't happy with row 2 in qualifying, and then she got a taste of what could happen here, and all of a sudden she wasn't happy with actually not being able to maybe compete in the pit stop contest. And but the key thing as we listen to her radio is that she was fastest on carburation day, on practice day. Really gave guys a lot of indication about what's going on with her car.
There you hear the radio chatter. Not only does she have to deal with 224 miles an hour and 32 of the fastest in the world, she's got that chatter in her ear, Scott, and it almost sounds like sometimes you can't hear quite exactly what they're saying, and that take your focus off the race course.
Here we go. She's going to get a great draft. Now we've got that's going through turn 3 right now. There's a spotter in turn 1, Todd, and a spotter in turn 3 because this track is so large, 2.5 miles to one spotter. No threat from behind, so she knows she can focus on the driver in front. This track is so large here, 2.5 miles, we don't have the opportunity to actually see all the ends.
Looking like she's making an adjustment right there. Scott at 224 miles an hour. Danica Patrick sitting in 5th place right now, just behind number 95. That's Buddy Lazier, a former winner here at the Indianapolis 500. And the rest of the field, the chase is on. There's the platinum car of Thomas Schechter. What does he have up his sleeve?
Chasing Weldon, always a tough competitor right in front. But sitting right back there, very interesting to see, Bourdais, a road course specialist from Le Mans, France, as you look backwards right now on the Pennzoil Panther car of Thomas Schechter. And Bourdais, who's actually 2nd in the Champ Car Series, said I don't have a lot of experience in high-speed drafting here. It's going to be a learning day for me throughout the 500 miles. 3 abreast, Todd, down the front stretch.
Bourdais, 37, his teammate Bruno Junqueira, number 36, running in 6th place, just behind Danica Patrick. We are 44 laps into this epic, not even 25% complete at the greatest spectacle in racing. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Welcome back to the Indianapolis 500. Your leader, Sam Hornish Jr. Dario Franchitti sits in 2nd. The pole sitter, Tony Kanaan, has slid back to 3rd. Danica Patrick in 4th. And Buddy Lazier in 5th. Scott, how is this thing going to play out?
I'll tell you, this is the most competitive first 48, 49 laps that I've ever seen in a long time, and I'm sort of glad, Todd, I'm actually standing in here with you instead of sort of sitting out there, because these guys are just 224, 25, 26 miles an hour sometimes, 3 or 4 abreast going through the straight. They're just not giving it up. It's like qualifying.
On board number 27, that's Dario Franchitti. He sits in 2nd, coming up on lap traffic. Now the car dead in front of him right there, the red and white. That is number 6, Sam Hornish Jr., your leader. And Dario Franchitti getting pinched down low by a lap. lap driver.
But you know, the key thing, I really do think that this track, with the grinding that they've done, has allowed the cars, as you see in the top side right now, having that opportunity to stay high and go through and just not be half down on that low line by the white line to get through the turn. I think this grinding has helped the pace of this race.
Danica Patrick, 23 years of age, a rookie, and running in 4th place in what Scott Goodyear said is the most competitive 500 he's ever seen. Are you impressed?
Impressed with the whole group and impressed with the speed and the pace that these guys are running for the first dozen or 15 cars. And they're right now showing that they're going to be able to keep this up all day, because the Firestone tires are a great tire. These guys are getting well over a fuel stint on these tires, and that might play out at the end of the day. They might turn around and actually start to do maybe 2 tire changes instead of 4, Todd, or maybe not even change tires altogether.
There's Tony Kanaan moving up there. The field's starting to spread out just a little bit as we go back on board with number 16. This is Danica Patrick, part of the Ray Hall Letterman team. Fastest practice lap, 2:29. Fastest qualifying, 2:27, and fastest on carb day, Scott. She's been running between 2:25 and 2:30 all month.
You know, you stop and you talk to her, Todd. She's got a body basically like a little gymnast. You know, she's 5'1". She's very fit, very strong. And you know something, when you speak to her, you know she is very, very focused.
And a grip like a vice.
Going past Buckman right now, 44 on the right-hand side. She passed. He's been down a lap. She just takes it all in stride, though. A beautiful line coming through forward, left wheels down below the white line, but not too far on the rumble strips.
For those of you tuning in to catch the buzz that is Danica Patrick, welcome, and she is definitely worth the price of admission. Scott, on board with USA Today all week. She's living up to the hype. I mean, a lot of people say she's got to deliver the goods. That's what Bobby Rahal, our team owner, said, and she is doing just that, doing exactly what they want her to do.
Well, it's funny, I asked Bobby the other day, I said, you know, is it going to be contract renewal time? And he looked at me and just smiled and he says, oh, she's under contract.
Well, the record average speed for 500 miles is 185.981. That was put up by Ari Lyondike back in 90. Including the 7 laps of caution we've had today, the average is over 180 miles an hour, which would make it the 2nd fastest ever. Mr. Letterman down there, sporting team colors.
What a race enthusiast he is.
Well, just moments ago, the black flag came out for the 2nd time. Marty Roth, the number 25 car, got the black flag. Scott, explain to the fans what the black flag means, and is it the kiss of death, or do you get a mulligan?
Well, it becomes the kiss of death once you've used up your mulligan, simply because you get a chance to come in the pit lane, make an adjustment on the car, and get back out. And if you are not on race pace, then definitely you'll be coming in. And right now, okay, we're hearing a lot of radio chatter going on right now, but the key thing is that Brian Barnhart will give you one opportunity to repair the car, fix the car. If you're not up to speed, you are then in the way, as the black flag is waving right now to number 91, Jimmy Kite, as we saw. So right there is a key situation. Both 25 and 91 off the pace, need to fix it or they'll be pulled in for the day.
You are looking at your leader, number 6. That is Sam Hornish Jr., part of Team Penske. As he brings it around, a lot of folks at home are saying, oh, black flag, let him stay out there and race. But Scott, at 225 miles an hour, if you can't keep the pace, you become a hazard not only to yourself, but the rest of the field.
Well, the key thing is that you can be maybe 5 or 10 miles off pace, but you know something, as you watch, Hornish just battling in here right now, locking those wheels up. Don't go over the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. 33 laps since his last stop. That's about as far as you're going to go in a tank full of gas.
Let's send it down to Jackaroo.
Fellas, remember the last time this team put one full turn of front wing in. It cured the problem in traffic, but once Sam Hornish broke free, the car started to break free. So watch this time for one half turn to come back out of the rear, out of the front wing. Once they complete their service with the Firestone Firehawks, one of the crewmen will reach over to the nose of the car, and there he is. He's going to take a half turn out and make the change. They go 30 minutes, 10.2 seconds, full tank of fuel. First of our green flag stops. Roger Penske just said, nice work, go back at it.
All right, well, here's the situation, Scott. We thought this might happen. Drivers getting out of sequence. Now it's Tony Kanaan's turn to come in. Franchitti is also in.
Notice that Tony Kanaan got one more lap out of that fuel stop than Sam Hornish Jr. did.
Let's go back down to Jackaroo.
Now the difference for Tony Kanaan last time out is they made a chassis adjustment just on air pressure. 35 gallons of methanol go in the 711 car. New tires. They say they're going to go for new tires every stop. The gravity-feed fuel system taking all the tires. No major changes, and he does it in 7.1 seconds.
right, here comes Danica Patrick, number 16, making a very critical pit stop as we send it down to Dr. Jerry Punch.
And despite the fact that Danica has complained the car is getting looser in traffic, they have opted on the radio moments ago not to make any changes. No wing changes, no air pressure changes, just to encourage their young driver about the sensational job she is doing. Ed Daly, Ray Infield Company, hoping to get her in and out. Remember, critically here at Indy, you cannot afford to stall the car. Remind her to rev the engine. Tires are on. They've got to get it full of fuel. Need to go 33 laps of a tank of fuel. And they're holding for fuel. It's down and away.
All those pit stops, Todd, interesting to see when we were watching Tony Kanaan get service work. Franchitti drove around the outside of him. So right now that means that Franchitti's in second. Interesting to see once they get shuffled through all these stops if he actually can stay out directly in front of him.
You are looking at your new leader, Bruno Junqueira, as we ride on board with Scott Sharp as he comes down for a pit stop. Scott, this has got to be brutal as you come down 225 miles an hour, and then you have to go in here at 60 miles an hour. We check in with Vince Welch.
Bruno Junqueira in for a pit stop for fuel and tires, a very routine stop. It's their second stop, and they haven't made a chassis adjustment yet.
Great reporting by Vince. No chassis adjustments means that he's very happy with the race car, Todd. He's a very happy driver.
Now the shuffling takes place on the leaderboard. Who will wind up on top? Not quite out of sequence for the whole field, Scott, but enough to really make it interesting as we get down to the last 30, 40 laps.
Well, when the first group starts to pit, you have to pit. That's simply the rules. And plus, these guys are getting 30, 32 laps per tank full right now. They're going to run out of gas if they stay out any longer.
We will step aside, take a quick break. When we come back, much more of the 2005 Indianapolis 500 in a moment. It is the Mecca of racing. Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where history has been made. 188 different drivers have led the Indianapolis 500, all of them men. Today, Danica Patrick has turned the trick. One down, one to go. As they were cycling in for pit stops, Danica Patrick has been credited with leading one lap, Scott. Another barrier has been broken.
Lap 56 will always be in her mind, that's for sure. What a momentous occasion. Now she gets to go and join a group of people next year that actually go to a festivities whenever you become a lap leader here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And right now, let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, Buddy Rice is out of the cockpit, but watching considerable action here. Buddy, is there anything that stands out thus far with any of the cars you see that we should stay on top of?
I mean, I don't know. Looks like Hornish is strong. He's been strong all month, actually, for Penske. And obviously the two HCR cars with Tony and Dario, but, you know, Danica's looking pretty good, and, you know, Vitor's right there. Just like a big shuffling right now with all the lap cars.
And, fellas, one of the things you'd better start to watch is the guy that replaced him. Kenny Breck has made some adjustments on that last pit stop, and he's flat flying.
All right, thank you very much, Jack. We'll give you a quick rundown right now. It is Sam Hornish Jr., number 6, the red and white Team Penske car out in front. Dario Franchitti sits in second. Tony Kanaan in third. Danica Patrick holding steady at fourth. Then Dan Weldon is all the way up to fifth. Bruno Junqueira is sixth. Buddy Lazier in seventh. Thomas Scheckter up to eighth. Wow. There is Thomas Scheckter as we go on board with him. This is a guy who is, I don't say the wild card, but he is capable of almost anything.
You know, ultimately one of the fastest guys here. I think back a couple of years ago when he was leading, really looked like he had the race under him, but ended up crashing in turn 4. The key thing with Thomas, though, he has to get to the end of the race, because if he does, he's always a threat. But sometimes we've had team problems, sometimes driver problems that actually have stopped him winning events. And a crazy thing at Motegi of running out of fuel when he had the lead, Todd.
Had the lead with just over a lap to go, and he ran out of fuel, handing the victory to Dan Weldon, who has won 3 times this year. So Dan Weldon, quite possibly the hottest driver, but never bet against Thomas Scheckter in that number 4 Platinum Pennzoil ride.
You know why I like Dan Weldon, Todd, is because, you know, a few years ago when he was here, he ended up going on his roof going through turns 3 and 4 because he drove Sam Hornish down to the grass. Well, the key thing now is that he's learned off his teammates in the last couple of years. He's really absorbed a lot of information, and the guidance of Michael Andretti, he's really matured, and he's a smart race driver now. He sits back and takes advantage of situations, and he doesn't push it before he has to.
Right now we check in with Penn Holderness, who's with a real gladiator. Penn?
Yeah, Todd, when it comes to movie stars, it doesn't get any bigger than the guy standing next to me, Russell Crowe. Your first trip to Indianapolis, you've been to a lot of cool places. I know I've seen all your movies, you know, like Rome and in a big ship. What do you think of the Speedway?
I think this is the prettiest and most beautiful Speedway track that I've seen in the world, mate, and the cleanest.
Cleanest, that's good to know. Well, now you're turning into a little bit of a race fan. I know. Have you got any cars you're rooting for today?
Well, I was very interested in how Danica's going, and she seems to be rocking pretty well. But there's an Aussie bloke out there, Ryan Briscoe, and also a bloke from New Zealand. I'm keeping my eye on those two as well.
Russell always going for the underdogs, or as he would like to call them, the blokes. Look forward to seeing you in theaters soon. Russell, thanks for joining us.
All right, mate, thanks very much. I can't hear anything, folks. Hope you're having a great day.
Back to you, Todd.
And Penn, he just got big ups from Scott Goodyear wearing the Maple Leafs hat. That's huge for you.
Obviously a hockey fan. We're not watching hockey these days. If those guys ever get off a strike, we might see some.
Well, Russell Crowe having a great time here with our Penn Holderness. Look at that.
That has got to be the classiest thing I've seen in a long time.
You're now a big Russell Crowe fan, aren't you?
I am.
Back to racing action. Sam Hornish Jr., number 6, the red and white Team Penske car, your leader. Dario Franchitti sits in second. The 11 of Tony Kanaan in third, and Danica Patrick holding steady in the top 4. And, you know, Buddy Rice may have said it best. The car looks very strong.
You know something? When that end of last week came around, a lot of people turned around and went home on Friday, gave the guys some time off. Drivers weren't out testing, but on Saturday and Sunday, Tim Cindric telling his driver, Sam Hornish, nice work getting through the traffic. Team Penske was out running with both their cars, 1-2 in traffic all day Saturday, all day Sunday, because they wanted to make sure the cars worked in traffic. Very smart move by Team Penske.
Maybe the hottest driver on the IndyCar circuit right now. This is Dan Weldon, started 16th, up to 5th place in the 26 car, part of the Andretti Green team. And this guy lives the rock star life, but he is smooth.
He is, through the first turn and downshifts in the short chute to get the car coming off the turn, coming off turn 2, going down that long 5/8 mile straightaway we talked about. Back up using his right hand, getting the gear, keeping the engine in the power band. 10,300 RPM is the maximum. Back down, going in through turn 3 now. And traffic will slow him down just a little bit. Catches another gear because he's getting slow because of the traffic. Hopefully the guy sees him, but he slides right underneath. Listen to the engine now, down on speed, down on RPM.
The 26 car of the 26-year-old Dan Weldon, originally from Emberton, England, now living in St. Petersburg, Florida. He is the hottest driver right now on the IndyCar Series, already has 3 victories on the year, but the one he wants the most is the Indianapolis 500. Find out if he can do it. 73 laps complete. Back with more in a moment. Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the 89th running of the Indy 500. Just moments ago, Bruno Junqueira, the Brazilian, took it into the wall, and this is not a good crash, Scott.
You know, the key thing right now, though, is you see all the wheels hanging off the car and the rear wing is displaced, you know, and obviously any hit here is absolutely huge. But the key thing is that usually all those wheels coming off end up meaning that you absorbed impact by the car. Now let's see, he's actually going to come down the inside. No, you know something?
He got clipped.
Absolutely clipped. Junqueira had the right of way. The slower car needs to stay high and just shoots him into the wall. That's probably at 215 miles an hour, Todd. And I can tell you, that is an absolute huge hit.
Well, I may mention this is a bad crash. Any crash at this place is terrible. At that speed, watch it one more time as he comes to the inside.
Looks like possibly the ABC car of Foyt. See, Foyt needs to be told by his spotter right now that he's coming underneath him.
Yep.
Foyt looks like he is coming down proper lane, but maybe Junqueira is just a little bit high, trying to drive him up too high and not give him enough space. You know, it's a very tight call right there, but both of them are going for the same place. But definitely Foyt needs to get off the throttle just a little bit, because when they're off the pace like that and those guys are flying, you don't want to give up any time whatsoever. That is a huge, huge hit.
And there is damage to the front left of A.J. Foyt, the 4th, but getting the worst of it is Bruno Junqueira, part of the Newman-Haas team. Here's a guy that came in, Scotty, with so much momentum, just won the Grand Prix of Monterrey, Mexico, just a week or so ago, and he comes here as one of the guys that really threatened to win this thing.
Actually, just running up to 6th. He started in 12th, and he was actually up to 6th, looking at Weldon, an absolute contender because he was so fast here today.
There is A.J. Foyt, the 4th, taking off his helmet. Looks like his day may be done as we check in with our Vince Welch.
TZ, it looked like just got clipped a little bit there, but Bruno was having a terrific day. Have you guys heard from him yet on the radio?
No, once he had that hard hit in the wall there, we tried radioing to him, and he didn't respond. So we hope the safety team gets there and gets the attention that he needs, and he'll be okay. But yeah, it looked like we were going to lap a car that was 5 laps down. It looked like they touched wheels. Yeah, the Syntrex Newman Haas car was running really well. I mean, you know, we started back where we did, and Bruno had it up to 5th. It was running strong. We led some laps, stretched the fuel mileage, but we hope that he's okay right now.
Definitely a disappointing day. They had not made a single adjustment to that car. It had been running perfectly, and as TZ mentioned, everybody just waiting to hear now from Bruno Junqueira.
Thank you, Vince. And the disappointment comes from this guy's abilities. You know, he had a 5th in 2001 here and in 2004. He's had 3 Indy starts. He's only 28 years of age from Belo Horizonte, Brazil. And right now, all eyes on the track to find out just the welfare of Bruno Junqueira. We hope that all is well with him, Scott. But as you pointed out, I don't know if there was really anything he could have done there.
You know, he was really doing the right thing. You always want to keep your foot on the gas. You don't want to lose up any time. And when the driver moves right like that, you think he sees you, he thinks the spotter's been told, and you really want to get an opportunity to get through that turn as quick as you can.
Let's send it down to Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, guys, they have told Danica Patrick that although the speed is important here, right now it's all about timing and working traffic, and you're doing a marvelous job. They will bring her down and put 4 fresh Firestones on, fill it full of fuel, 30 gallons of methanol, and they are saying no changes whatsoever. Just work traffic as he gets the car to a halt. 4 tires go on as we head down to Jackaroo.
No changes on your leader, Roger Penske, putting the whip to Sam Hornish Jr. as we engage in the race to the line. And Danica Patrick has stalled the car. Jerry.
Yeah, she started to leave, and the car just stalled about a foot away from where they've done the pit stop, and now they can't get it refired. They're trying to get the car refired, and they're talking to Danica here in the cockpit. They're trying to get the generator in to refire the car, and it is yet to fire. You'll hear it fire up momentarily, and our microphone trying to get it to work.
Ignition off, and then back
there
on
you hear
again.
it finally is trying to turn the engine. Oh, what a terrible break for Danica Patrick, who had driven a flawless race, and now she spins it out and heads away.
Well, a little extra thought of there, Scott. Explain to the folks at home why she can't start herself and what's going on.
Well, the key thing right now, when she's trying to move, let's listen to the...
Well, we're restarting. We got to be in neutral, foot off the clutch. That's all right, guys. We'll recover from that. You got a fast car. We're picking around these back markers. Let's reset the fuel.
Okay, let's talk about this for a second. Couple things might be happening there. When she put the car in gear to go, it stalled. It tells us one of 2 things is happening. Either she wasn't depressing the clutch all the way down, or the clutch is starting to go away on her. So when you put it in gear, it's actually not disengaging the engine to the transmission. The key thing now is they'll have to wait for the next pit stop to see exactly what's going on with that. If she stalls again, then they're going to have to actually just keep the car in neutral, start pushing her out of the pit box, and click it into gear.
Scott, we talked about taking care of your equipment, the gearbox, the clutch, certainly one of the most important because of the shifting that takes place here at the 500.
Well, the key thing right now is that she has to stay calm. Remember, that's a focus of concentration through pit stops. And see how calm she was in the radio? That's the nice thing about it. She is a veteran only at 23 years of age, Todd.
Let's check in with Jamie Little.
Well, Todd, unfortunately, another Foyt is out of the field. A.J. Foyt, the 4th, involved in that incident. What happened there, Anthony, from your perspective?
You know, it happened so quick. You know, I was slow coming out of the turn 1 because I had a car going underneath me in that corner, and I think Bruno came up on me real quick and went underneath me, and we just left front to right rear. I don't really know what happened. And I feel sorry for him. I'm sure he was running a lot better than I was, so it's a lot more unfortunate for him than it is me. But you know, we're out of another race here in the 500 2 years in a row. It's disappointing for our new sponsor, ABC, but we'll be back next year and see what happens.
Was it a communication gap? Was your spotter on it? Did he tell you he was there?
Yeah, I mean, the spotter sat inside. I mean, he was pretty much by when we touched. I don't know if I tried to turn in and stay out of the marbles, or he waited a little late to turn in, but it was just when you get past in a short shoot, you can't get up and give too much room because you'll get in the marbles and hit the wall yourself. So it's just unfortunate for the whole team.
All right, Bruno Junqueira is back at the medical center. We will get back there and get an update and get back to you. Todd?
Well, Scott, there's a lot in that, and you don't want to point blame. I know Brian Barnhart, the president of the IRL is going to have a long look at that. But from your perspective, you've already made your voice known.
Well, you know, I just think that EJ being off the pace like that has to give him some room, because, you know, something when a guy's closing in on you at 20 or 25 or 30 miles an hour faster, you know something, there's not a whole lot of room for error.
Well, we go back to St. Petersburg, our first road course race this year, and this was the incident. AJ Foyt IV with Helio Castroneves. Watch the inside of your screen.
In the red car, the 14 car, just turning around, taking Castroneves out, not just giving him enough room. Much the same situation as here right now, and you know something, that's going to weigh a lot on AJ the Fourth. And Todd, I want to say that I think he is a very talented young driver, but unfortunately, you know, he just doesn't have the equipment that's going to actually get him up to the front right now. I'd like to see him get something underneath him that might give him the opportunity to really show his talent.
Yeah, not to throw AJ under the bus or the IndyCar, but he is a talented driver, and wish him the very best as we check in with our Jackaroo.
Well, guys, during this break, we've caught up with the director of racing for Firestone Tires, Al Spire. And Al, we look at these tires behind us, and they're really not what we would use on our passenger car, and yet the technology over 10 years that you've learned here has now found its way to what I drive out on the road.
Well, you know, Jack, Firestone looks at Indy as a great big laboratory. You know, we've literally logged hundreds of thousands of miles on our Firestone Firehawks here. The one thing that we've really learned about is LL Carbon Black. It's in our Unity technologies in our street tires. What LL Carbon Black is, it's longer, stronger bonds. It gives the race tires excellent heat resistance, and it gives our street tires, for all our consumers, longer wear and better wet traction.
Well, fellas, I will tell you one thing about wear here today. No problem with the tires. In fact, I just heard Roger Penske tell his driver, Sam Hornish Jr., look, fellas, we're going to be able to take our time because we can put all 4 tires on and get the fuel we need. So let's be real precise in the next few pit stops.
We remain under yellow at the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. Bruno Junqueira, the current points leader in the Champ Car World Series, will update his condition after this. Your leader continues to be Sam Hornish Jr. Back in a moment.
Back at the Indianapolis Speedway, we are still under the yellow. I'm Brent Musburger. Let me give you a quick update. For the most part, it has been just splendid weather. We lost a day of qualifying, of course, to the rain, but here today, it could not have been better racing conditions for everyone. 3 doors down, entertained the crowd before the start of the race, and the Stealth Bomber made an appearance. Reggie Miller of the Indiana Pacers, he dropped the ceremonial green flag, and right at the beginning, the pole center went out, and Sam Hornish Jr. passed him on the first lap of this race. But one of the boys from Brazil just sat there, and on lap 8, Tony Kanaan took it back. Our first incident occurred on lap 19. Larry Foyt crashing. Watch Castroneves. What a save here, as the 3 cars able to get on through. You can see from the onboard that tremendous bit of driving by Helio. Hornish, who has never had a top 10 finish at Indianapolis, has taken command, though, of the early going, driving for Roger Penske, who is seeking his 14th Indianapolis 500 victory. And then just moments ago, Bruno Junqueira involved in that incident with AJ Foyt IV. Of course, Dr. Jerry Punch is checking on the condition of Bruno, who is another one of the very talented drivers. There was a bit of history here. Danica Patrick, before she stalled her engine down here in the pits, led a lap of this race as her top competitors pitted. She's the first woman to ever lead a lap at the Indianapolis 500. And now we're going to go back to Todd and Scott. And Scott, this is such a critical moment. Is this simply a lack of experience here?
Brent, I'm not too sure exactly what's going on there, because she looked like she was about ready to take off, and then the car moved forward quite a few feet, and then it stalled. So we question whether there was a clutch problem, but now I'm looking at it, you know, it just may have been a rookie mistake in the sense of actually just a little bit of jitters trying to leave the pit lane, but it's going to take until the next pit stop before we actually find out what's going on.
Danica Patrick currently sitting in 16th place. Sam Hornish Jr., your leader. Dario Franchitti sits in 2nd. Then Tony Kanaan, Scott Sharp, Thomas Schechter, and Dan Weldon. There he is, lurking around 6th position. As we ride on board with Danica Patrick, we take a look at our Toyota lap leaders, Hornish Jr. and Kanaan. They are waging their own little personal battle out there, aren't they? This is the battle between the 2 super teams, Penske and Andretti Green.
And that's what we've seen all month long, you know, and there's obviously been great teams here before, with Ganassi winning this race back in 2000 with Montoya. So many super teams are here, but these are the ones that are in the forefront right now. And Penske is always Penske perfect on race day. I was surprised to see Sam Hornish Jr. remove his car in the new qualifying format that he had and take a shot at the front row, which he did, and he got up to the middle of the front row, the best starting position ever for Sam Hornish Jr. here at Indianapolis.
Well, let's check in at the medical center, and that's where we find Jamie Little.
Well, so far, good news for driver Bruno Jonquera. He is awake and alert, but like Larry Foyt, he's complaining of lower back pain. They're going to transport him via ambulance to Methodist Hospital. We'll get an update later on, but right now he's awake, alert, and talking to his sisters who are by his side.
All right, thank you very much, Jamie Scott. Goodyear knows exactly what that lower back pain means. It means it is extremely difficult to get back in the car. Back to Indianapolis after this short break. Well, as you just saw, we've gone green once again at the Indianapolis 500. And again, it is Sam Hornish Jr. out in front. Now, just in front of him, he's got the 33T car. That's Ryan Briscoe, one of the blokes that Russell Crowe talked about. He is a lap down. And Scott, this has got to be frustrating to Sam Hornish Jr. because he should have clean air in front of him.
Well, he should do, but Ryan Briscoe did what he had to do, Todd, and that's to get in front of Sam Hornish Jr. as we see Brack coming in the pits right now. And they're putting some alignment tools on.
Scott, this is an ongoing problem for Kenny Brack. They've been working on the upper A arm, and it could be the end of the day as we ride on board with the rest of the field.
As we reset the table for you, Sam Hornish Jr., number 6, your leader. Second from the left on your screen, the red and white Penske team member. Tony Kanaan sits in second. He was the pole sitter, number 11 on the 7-11 ride. Then it's number 27, Dario Franchitti. And now Scott Sharp, number 8. He is looming right now, currently sitting in 4th.
Very strong car Scott Sharp has been fast all month, sort of going underneath the radar screen, really. But he sort of liked it that way because he said, you know something, I just want to lead the last few laps, but let me get back to the front, which I was starting a second ago. Right now, Hornish has just gone past Ryan Briscoe, which is not what Briscoe wanted. As I started to say, Briscoe did the right thing by getting in front of Hornish because he's a lap down. He wanted to get ahead of him in case there was another yellow. Then he'd come around and be on the lead or on the tail end of the lead lap.
Ryan Briscoe and Tony Kanaan, these two have had their moments. Remember back in St. Pete as it came down the last few laps, Ryan Briscoe trying to hold off a hard-charging Tony Kanaan. They got together. Dan Weldon snuck by and picked up the victory.
As you can see, Briscoe right now simply is starting to fall off the pace. Now he's going to get eaten up by all these guys from the front.
Ryan Briscoe, number 33 team, part of the Target Chip Ganassi team, and the flag that comes out for him as the leaders are coming through. Make room. Scott Sharp gets by him. And Scott, you bring up a good point. He does not want to go a lap down.
Didn't want to go a lap down. He's certainly a lap down now, but the key thing, Scott Sharp had a look on the inside of Franchitti. That shows the patience that he has right now. You know, when we're only starting the 91st lap, that's not the time to be brave and bold going into turn 1.
On board with number 26, speaking of brave and bold, this is Dan Weldon. This guy has never seen a slot too small to pass in. As he grabs some more gears, Dan Weldon, there you see his movement throughout the day. Started 16th. He's kind of been up and down the board, but he is now settling into a very comfortable 6th place position, certainly within striking distance for him.
Smart move. We're not past halfway, as we mentioned. Right now, looking at the 83, he's going in right in the underside of Patrick Carpentier.
Bit of a lift there.
Canada, he got off the gas, very smart. Patrick obviously didn't have the car that he could give him enough room and run around the outside. He would have heard from his spotter that he had Weldon coming up on the inside. Here we go. Sharp's really quick right now. You can see how fast he got back up to Franchitti after losing that space, turning into turn 1. He gets a good run now coming off of 4. He's going to look for that draft to see if he can make a move going down to 1. As we now changing and looking at Kanaan, taking a look at Hornish.
1 and 2 goes through. Look at this. Scott Sharp on the inside gets the pass on Dario Franchitti. So Scott Sharp in the Delphi 8 car moves in front of Dario Franchitti, who has been strong all day long. And those 4 now out in front. Look at the distance they're gapping themselves on the rest of the field.
And that's what we saw.
Doing awesome, buddy.
That's what we saw before when we saw Hornish looking at Franchitti. He started that move back in turns 3 and 4. And then when we came back, he did a nice pass going into 1.
Just so you know, it's Sam Hornish Jr., Tony Kanaan, Scott Sharp, and Dario Franchitti, the top 4 here at the 89th running of Indianapolis 500. Our last pit came on lap 79, so Scott, right now, pitting is not an issue for these 4.
No, and if they're going to try and start to save fuel, Todd, that's taking the fuel trim on the steering wheel and turning it back from 100% fuel, maybe to 98, 96, And if you run leaner on the fuel trim, you get better fuel mileage. You might just get an extra lap or two out of that tank full, and that's what they look for. Right now, aboard Kanaan, getting a draft into 3. Will he make it? I'm not sure. Listen to that, off the throttle, and Hornish stays up high.
Wow. And that was, I was going to ask you, is Tony Kanaan doing the right thing? I thought, well, maybe he's going to draft it as we take a look at the Firestone telemetry, but it almost looks like he is unable to keep the pace of Sam Hornish Jr.
Well, Hornish, you know, right now, I think he certainly wants to lead this event. There's a lot of pride for him running with Penske. He said, you know, something, I'm getting to run for my childhood dream team, and right now, not living very far away from here in Ohio, I'm sure he has a lot of friends and family here, and the key thing right now for him is he wants to lead as much as possible.
There you see how the pole sitters have fared. Buddy Rice won it last year from the pole 2004. Elio Castroneves did it in 2003, and he only got to 2nd place, so it is something very difficult to do as we ride on board the pole sitter this year for 2005 in Tony Kanaan. There's Kanaan, his teammate right behind him now. Dario Franchitti has gotten back around Scott Sharp, and now Scott Sharp possibly dialing in the fuel, going to sit there content to let these 3 battle it out and conserve some fuel, maybe get out of sequence as we ride on board with Dario Franchitti.
You know, a nice job. Look at the wheel again. We talked about that before. In the shifter. See how much work he's doing.
Dario Franchitti there, you saw the picture there. A lot of debris on there. We'll try to clear that lens, but it's done mechanically as you ride on board right now with the pole sitter. That is Tony Kanaan, who currently sits in 2nd as we go into the pits right now. And this looks like it's going to be number 51, Alex Barron, part of the Red Bull Cheever Izod team. 51 coming in for a pit.
You see that problem he's having with the fuel tub right now. Watch this. The fuel probe that he's having. You saw him struggling, trying to put it in. And this is a long stop, an extra 5 or 6 seconds because they could not get the fuel trim in.
And they're reminded of pit road speed, 60 miles an hour, or you get the wrath of Brian Barnhart, who could sit you for a lap.
And it's a stop and go or a lap. It's usually a stop and go, and that's the key thing. You certainly lose time on the track, especially under green conditions.
Number 27, my helicopter pilot buddy Dario Franchitti right now sits in 3rd place behind his teammate Tony Kanaan in 2nd. Sam Hornish Jr. as we ride on board with Scott Sharp, currently running in 4th place. Scott Sharp started on the outside of the front row. Scotty, you like this guy. You like what he could do at the end of a race.
And a pass there for the lead. There goes Kanaan doing a nice job sliding on the inside of 1. And see the dirty air that the car gets when you pass it. Hornish has to get off the gas a little bit, Todd, because all that turbulent air from the car in front takes away your downforce. Guys taking advantage of this right now, all this traffic going on in front. Scott Sharp gets a run in Franchitti, and now we'll start looking at Hornish.
The front row is back intact. Tony Kanaan, the pole sitter, out in front of the race here at the Indianapolis 500. Sam Hornish Jr., who started next to him on the right, sits in 2nd, and the man on the outside of the front row, Scott Sharp, is in 3rd place as we get a beautiful view on the back of Tony Kanaan as we ride around the greatest racetrack in the world at more than 224 miles an hour. Much more of the 89th running of the Indy 500 after this.
I don't care what the calendar says. This ain't no Sunday drive. The classiest joint in this place is called the Pits. They serve hot exhaust and burnt rubber with a scoop of luck for dessert. And you pay your tab with everything you got. Welcome to Speed City.
High above Speed City in Indianapolis, we have paid the toll for halfway. We are just over at 103. And we want to remind you that providing aerial coverage for today's race is Freedom, the AmeriQuest mortgage blimp. Dancing with the Stars, not with wolves, but Dancing with the Stars. 4-time heavyweight boxing champion Evander Holyfield is competing in the new series, Dancing with the Stars. He'll be paired up with an international dance champion. They'll train and compete for 6 weeks live. The viewers and panel of judges will decide who will be America's best dancing couple. Dancing with the Stars premieres Wednesday, 9, 8 Central, only on ABC. And I'm surprised they didn't ask Scott Goodyear to join that because he's one of the biggest stars I know. I just don't think he can dance. As we welcome you back to the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. Sam Hornish Jr., number 6, continues to lead right there in the Penske team. And watch this pass, Scotty. This is Goodyear-esque.
This is a replay of just a bit ago, actually. Look at Hornish having a look at Kanaan coming out of 4. Does a beautiful job drafting. Keeps him high going into the turn, and he claims turn 1 for himself.
Well, they were gridded just right, like we had at the pole at the start of the race with Kanaan, Hornish, and Sharp, and Sam Hornish did not take kindly to that. He now moves into the lead. Tony Kanaan looks comfortable to sit behind him. Now, why wouldn't he right now just sit back and dial in his fuel and just conserve?
Oh, from the simple fact, as you heard Tim Cindric for Penske tell Sam that he was clear, there's a lot of pride. We talked about that at the very beginning of the show, not only for the driver, but also for the team. And you know something, I've always said, once a driver puts his helmet on, your foot wants to be on the gas. And even though there might be some team directions about what to do, you want to lead the Indianapolis 500, Todd.
And Sam Hornish Jr. is doing that right now. Tony Kanaan is in tow in second. But there is Sam Hornish Jr., part of the Marlboro Penske team. Roger Penske, if you don't follow racing, you know the name. Penske Perfect. Get used to it because that's how he does everything. And Sam Hornish Jr. right now is making his boss very proud.
You know, I'm thinking about Penske. We talked just a little bit earlier about how he does things so wonderful as we see Roger Penske there, the owner of Castor Nevis and Hornish's car. They took those motors out that they were using, took them back to Reading, Pennsylvania, did some work on them, made them work a little bit better in the short shoot and from torque right now as he wants. So he had the opportunity to turn around and make the engines run a little bit better for race day conditions. That's after qualifying. That's what they were working on. Brought the motors back for carb day, ran them, they were happy with them, and just had them get to a situation where he thinks they're perfect here for race day.
Getting around another lap rider, and we just want to make a quick mention. Dan Weldon just ran the fastest lap of the race, a 2:26.896 as we check in with Jackaroo.
Well, early before he started the race, Kenny Breck said you wanted to write your own chapter in your book. I don't believe the chapter included that loose nut on the front suspension.
I can't hear you. What did you say?
I don't believe the chapter in your book included the loose nut on that front suspension.
Well, it was a shame, you know. These guys have worked so hard all the way through this month, and they're a great crew, and I don't know the reason for that. If something came loose, but the car was good, and what matters, I think, for me personally is I was able to get back in and be quick, but I feel bad for the team and all the sponsors and stuff, and I'm sure they pick it up and get back the next race again.
Will we see more of Kenny Breck?
I don't know. We'll see. Who knows?
Guys?
All right, thank you very much, Jack. Not the way that man wanted to see the 15 car finish up. That is David Letterman, part owner of the Ray Hall Letterman team. So Kenny Breck, number 15, is out of the race. He did win this race back in 1999, but Kenny Breck will not be able to win the Indianapolis 500 in 2005. Back to racing action. Your leader continues to be Sam Hornish Jr. Tony Kanaan sits in second, Dario Franchitti in third, and Scott Sharp in fourth. If you're wondering where Danica Patrick is, she is now mired in 14th place, so she has moved up 2 positions, Scott Goodyear, since she had that pit problem. As we'll check in one more time with Jamie Little.
I want to update one of the stories we had in the pregame show of Sam Schmidt. He was the race car owner that was paralyzed racing, actually. He raced here 3 times. His driver, Richie Hearn, they've had their problems today, but they have worked their way up from 20th position to 18th. They missed their pit stop on the first time through, and they had to come back through. They've lost time. But everything's so good with Sam Schmidt. He's working hard, and he's out here. We'll continue to update him.
And let's check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Guys, a lot of encouragement on the radio for Danica Patrick. Both her engineer and her spotter telling her what a great job she's doing, telling her she's got plenty of time, lots of laps left. Don't do anything foolish. You're picking them off one at a time. And oh, by the way, they reminded her that last year, Buddy Rice also stalled his car in the pits. And you know where he finished? He won the thing. So don't worry about it at all. She could be fine.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Jerry Punch. Scott Goodyear, I'll ask you, for a man who's run this race 11 times, as we watch the leader in the red and white Penske car, Sam Hornish Jr., being trailed by the pole sitter Tony Kanaan, the green and white 11. How far up the ladder do you have to be at what point to give yourself a shot?
All comes down to where all the cars are. If you're coming down, for instance, to a restart in the very end of the race, that's the best time to actually pass people. And that's where the engine comes into the torque of the engine, whether it's a Honda or Toyota, the gearbox selection that they have inside. And right now, as you watch, Hornish getting dirty air from the car that's up in front. From the traffic, he's going to go low and try and protect himself, but he got so far off the gas from the traffic in front that allows Kanaan to get a clear shot around down the backstretch going in through 3. And there again, dirty air coming off Kanaan's car makes Hornish have to go a little bit high. But the whole thing at the end of the day is you want to make sure that you've got the best race car underneath you. You want to change it during pit stops, the best tire pressures, the best wing selection, the best car in traffic. But the key thing, I love a shootout at the end, because the whole key thing for that.
Well, that is unbelievable driving, Scotty. This is not driving down the 405 in California. This is 224 miles an hour, and Tony Kanaan just made a pass on Sam Hornish Jr. So they have gone back and forth. And Scott, there's a theme here. These two really seem to be, I don't want to say the hungriest, but do they have the best equipment?
Well, the hungriest out of those two, you know, almost you'd have to say Hornish, because, you know, he wants to win this event too. But the key thing, as we watch Castroneves come in, which should be a fuel stop, the key thing right now is Hornish knows that he could win this 14th race for Roger Penske, which would be the 14th win for Sam Hornish Jr. in this series.
Elio Castroneves, part of the Penske team. Elio just having his 30th birthday this year, and this guy lives the life down in South Beach. Hangs out with Shaq. He's visited with the Pope before. He gets out in 11.1 seconds. And we've got a problem on the track there. You see it, 2 cars involved as they come down, 1 down to the grass, and everyone now trying to just get out of the debris field, Scott. And that usually is the biggest problem, as Sam Hornish Jr. can attest.
Well, the 1 car down the grass right now looks like it's a 70 car.
Oh, I think that's
Richie Hearn, and another Target car, which the rear wing is off the car, and we don't have a number for that one right now, but
Scott Dixon.
Scott Dixon.
A past IndyCar Series champion, Scott Dixon from New Zealand, another one of those blokes that Russell Crowe referred to, and wow, that is just too bad. Richie Hearn especially, with his owner Sam Schmidt being here, and the story that we heard from Brett Musburger and Jim McKay, I just was hoping out of hope that it would be a great day for Sam Schmidt, but any day you have Sam Schmidt here is a great day. We'll watch the replay one more time, what happened here.
Here they go, everybody rushing down to the first turn. Everybody looking like they're going for the same piece of real estate, as we always call it. Hearn coming down on Dixon. Looks like Dixon probably had a good run going on Hearn. Dixon was running as high as 9th, and you know, Team Target has not really had a lot of success this month, and a lot of luck obviously with Manning crashing over there in turn 2, going into the barrier, much the same way that we see Dixon doing that right there. And Dixon running as high as 9th, as we see Richie Hearn turning down on the Target car right there. Should have seen him. He was really clearly beside him. There was absolutely no way he gave him enough room to actually get through.
Number 70, Richie Hearn, out of Glendale, California, 34 years of age, driving for Meyer Coca-Cola. Here it is at full speed, and you see how they pull their hands off the wheel. Scott, tell us why they do that.
Key thing, you don't want your hand on the wheel, because when the wheel hits the cement wall or the retaining barrier, the safer barrier, it spins the wheel around so fast you'll certainly end up getting your wrist broken. You know, the more I look at that right now, the spotter for Hearn definitely had to tell him somebody low, somebody low. Richie, I think, thought that he had enough room. With a second look at it right now, the car's beside him, but back on his left rear flank. Possibly he did not see him, but the spotter has to tell him, give him room, give him room.
Scott Dixon starting 13th. There you see him out of Auckland, New Zealand, 24 years of age. He's had 2 Indy starts. Best finish was 8th back in 2004. So the Target Chip Ganassi team loses Scott Dixon. Good to see him up and walking as the yellow flag comes out. It is Kanaan out in front, Hornish Jr., Sharp, and Franchitti, the top 4, the way it's been all day long, Scott. The pits are open, so this is critical. With 114 laps complete, it may come down to something like this, a pit stop as we check in with Jack Arute.
This is what you love if you're a pit crew member, a mano-a-mano confrontation, one team against the other. Tony Kanaan will hit the pits first, but then some 2 seconds later comes Sam Hornish Jr. These crews have worked like well-oiled machines. Who will get the advantage on behalf of the car? Right now, it looks as it will be Sam Hornish Jr. if the fuel gets in. Now it's a flag race. Down to the end of pit road. Up through the throttle comes Hornish. And Barbara Penske wins that particular battle.
Thank you very much. And here is a pit exit camera cue. The Q pit exit cam. This will show the tail of the tape, which our Jack Arute called so eloquently. And Sam Hornish Jr. won on Carb Day. He won the pit competition.
And actually the right front was a little slow coming off, but actually they did a great job making up for it. And you heard the engine revving so much because Sam, as a driver, just get me out of this pit box. I want to get going, but you had to wait for the fuel. They still beat out the Andretti Green team, though. Nice job by Team Penske. We saw a little bit of wing adjustment going on Sam Hornish's car, so it tells you that he wanted a little bit of a change to make his car better.
Here's the aforementioned Q cam on the Quaker State, bringing that to you. Look how slow that. a lot quicker than that, obviously, Scott. They hit that line, they're quick to get past 60.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing probably lurches to 100 miles an hour in just about 2 seconds. Pretty fast.
We will step aside as the track is clean. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. You're watching the Indianapolis 500.
We are still under a yellow here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway because of an incident involving Scott Dixon and Richie Hearn. A shame that Sam Schmidt's car that we talked about, of course, in our pre-race festivities, Richie Hearn has now been knocked out of the race, and so too is Scott Dixon. And you know, it is time now, while we're still under yellow, for the Yamaha Tech Desk. So let's go down to our colleague, Jack Aru. Jack?
Well, Brent, you know as well as I do that when you're traveling at over 200 miles an hour, you cover a football field a second. Where is the best way to gain some advantage? Right on pit road. We called that stop between Sam Hornish and Tony Kanaan, saying it was a mano-a-mano confrontation. But maybe when you work for Roger Penske, you get a little bit of an advantage. I'm going to show you on the Target cutaway car just exactly what's going on. This is the fuel inlet area that has a dry brake system. They push it in, and then the fuel flows into this fuel cell here. But oftentimes, and we've seen it already, when you first insert it, it won't get seated properly. Why? Because in the heat of battle, it dries out around the outer edge. So what has Team Penske done? And they will not let me show it on the air. They have a special container that they first insert the dry brake system in to lubricate it. And then it's a quick in and a quick out. It more than compensated for the problem on the right front tire because it took them longer to fill up with fuel. Let's check in further down pit road with Vince Welch.
Well, it's been a difficult weekend for the Target Ganassi team. One of the team engineers, Mitch Davis, lost his father last night. He's not with the team today. Darren Manning is out with a mechanical, and Scott Dixon just went out in an accident. Mike Hull, sometimes this Indianapolis Motor Speedway can be a vicious animal that's victimized 2 of your cars.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to say that for the Target people, we worked really hard here, and we had a car we thought could win the race today. Scott was holding his own. His lap times were great. He was running as fast as the leaders, and it's not a long race. It's all about track position, and he was doing his job to stay up to the front. And you know what? Everybody's got to turn left that you race around, and real estate's tough to come by here.
Only one Ganassi driver left. That's the rookie, Ryan Briscoe. Brent?
All right, Vince, thank you very much. We're still under yellow right now, and a reminder that on June 28th, Empire, the summer's biggest TV event, filmed on location in Rome, is coming to ABC Tuesday, June 28th, 9/8 Central. We'll take a break and come right back with more action at the Indianapolis 500.
Welcome back to Green Flag Racing from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Lap 122 of 200. Your leader, Tony Kanaan, back in front. Dario Franchitti has his back in second. Sam Hornish Jr. sits in third. And Vitor Mira, number 17, moving up. That's Dan Weldon, number 26, Scott, taking a look on the inside of Mira.
Weldon's been going faster all day. Remember, they just had a pit stop, so this tells you whether or not some changes were made on the car and the drivers like what the changes were. And right now I have to say, Danny Weldon, from the way that he's marching through the field, certainly likes what they did for him.
Dario Franchitti goes to the inside of his teammate Tony Kanaan, and Dario Franchitti now takes the lead. Let's check in now with Vince Welch.
Scott, you were talking about the changes to Dan Weldon's car. They've been very minimal. They made a 1-pound tire pressure adjustment in the right front, and that's it. They've made the tire pressure adjustment a couple of times today, but no significant chassis adjustments at all. Weldon, who started 16th, has just been patiently working his way to the front, and his car has been so good in traffic all month long, and they are very confident as we head into the final 75-plus laps.
Vince, thanks for that great information. That 1-pound difference on that right front usually can make a big change in the handling of the car. And we talked about patience, as you mentioned, as Kanaan now looks on the inside of Franchitti going through one of those Budweiser keys to the race. Patience will always pay off here at Indianapolis.
Sam Hornish Jr. tries to get a look on the inside of the blue and red car of Dario Franchitti. Not enough room there. Wisely backs off, so Tony Kanaan out in front. Dario Franchitti sits in second. There you see Sam Hornish Jr., the red and white, and Dan Weldon's going to have a go at him.
Sam always can run around the outside and keeps those guys honest. And look at, he's still out there, Todd, around the outside of 4. I don't see this too often.
Not giving an inch to Dan Weldon. Weldon says, I'm going to have to slide back behind and get another run at this guy.
He's probably in disbelief, and so am I. I can't imagine that. Here he goes again. Talk about the bravery factor right there for Sam Hornish.
Wow.
It's up there.
Sam Hornish Jr. maintains his position in third. He does not want to let Dan Weldon get by. If he does, Andretti Green's got the top 3 positions.
Good point, and he knows that. He has no help right now because Castroneves is not anywhere to help him. Castroneves is back to 15th.
There you see the leader, Tony Kanaan, working with teammate Dario Franchitti. They are going 1 and 2 as we check in with Jamie Little.
Well, it's good news for Scott Dixon. He is here and able to talk to us. Scott, what happened from your perspective?
I think just there's a lot of slow guys out there, and some of them should be off the track at this point. But I don't know. Richie sort of was trying to pass a bunch of people. It was like 4 cars trying to go into turn 1. So that's what happens when nobody knows where everybody is.
Well, this is the helmet we have to show that kept him safe today. It was actually designed by the Target House kids suffering from leukemia and cancer, and all the Target Chip Ganassi drivers are wearing them today. So a good cause. Glad to see Scott Dixon's okay.
All right, thank you very much, Jamie. A great cause by Scott Dixon, and you're right, we're glad to see him okay. Back to racing action right now, Scott. We've lost 10 drivers. We're down to 23, and Thomas Schechter now starting to get a move. If you're just joining us, Danica Patrick had a slight mishap in the pit area. When she stalled, she is now sitting in 13th place, but Tony Kanaan is your leader. Dario Franchitti sits in second, Sam Hornish Jr. as we ride on board with Thomas Schechter, who is in 9th.
Nice job by Thomas. He just keeps moving his way along. A smart move because he has to just make sure he gets close to the end. Remember we talked about lap 180? A big wiggle, almost hit him 1. You can hear a lot more excitement out of Danica's voice than we've heard all day long. That tells you when a car is not working.
You know, that reminds me of the first race we saw her back in Homestead, and they really talked her through that race. The calming voice of just, you're fine, and it just seemed to work. And here we go. Dario Franchitti on the inside does not have enough drive to go to the inside of Tony Kanaan, so he will maintain his second position right now. Dan Weldon starting to get a little squirrely, has made the pass on Sam Hornish Jr. So does Andretti Green, 1, 2, and 3. This is like St. Pete's all over again.
And you know, Sam certainly wants to be able to change that. We've got a couple of more stops before this happens to get to the end, so he's going to have to make his car just a little bit better in those pit stops. We saw him do some changes before.
There are your Toyota lap leaders. Sam Hornish Jr. 77. Kanaan has 44. Franchitti has 3, and we are 127 laps in to this great race. There you see Danica Patrick, the rookie, the first woman ever to lead a lap at the Indianapolis 500. She currently sits in 12th place. But Tony Kanaan continues to lead the greatest spectacle in racing as we come up with 70 laps to go. Scott, as you look forward, what needs to happen if you're Tony Kanaan to get the win?
Probably looking at 2 more stops right now. You need to make sure your car is fast when you're running out front by yourself, like Tony Kanaan is right now, but you're not sacrificing anything in traffic. And the key thing for that is make sure that you communicate, as we always talk about, with your top people, and make sure that you have the opportunity to make changes during pit stops.
And we're just being told the slow car that you saw on the inside was AJ Foyt, the 4th, who has gone back out on track. Number 4, though, the platinum car, that is Thomas Schechter getting a great run. Scott Sharp thinks about it, can't get it done, and that was Brian Herta who actually tried to cut underneath him. He is the 4th member of the Andretti Green team, someone we haven't spoke about a lot today. He currently sits in 10th place.
Still strong, always a factor at races. One of the guys that does a lot of the engineering work and setup work on that Andretti Green team. We ride along right now with Thomas Schechter.
Wow, the pace of this race, Scotty. Take away the yellows that we've had. This is unbelievable.
Oh, Todd, the speeds are all at 223, 24, 25, sometimes 26 miles an hour. That's a lot of speed. You know, when you say you travel the length of a football field about 7/10 of a second around here, I'll tell you what, pretty quick.
Danica Patrick taking it around one more time. You heard her moments ago mention a big wiggle, almost hitting the wall in turn number 1. She has recomposed as only Danica can. At 23 years of age, Danica Patrick is earning her racing stripes right now. She currently runs in 13th place. Had it not been for that stall in the pit area, Scott, she'd most definitely be in the top 4 still.
Well, the race is actually not away from her right now, and she's actually looking underneath Kotsky Musura, who got slowed up. So watch out! Oh! I could see that one coming. Koski's off the pace. You got to know somebody's going to take advantage of that when you've got slowed down by the other traffic. You got to turn your brain factor on there.
So Koski Matsura and Danica Patrick touch tires. It looks like right now no structural damage. We'll get our pit reporters on that and find out, and we'll see if Danica makes a mention back to Bobby Rahal. Let's watch it one more time.
See, he's slowed up on the pace. He should know that somebody's going to come up behind him. Remember, the spotters are right there in 3 for him, but both great drivers right there and did a great job at saving it. Danica Brave Factor for keeping her foot into it, and Koski for hanging onto the thing on the outside of the turn.
The 23-year-old young lady from Roscoe, Illinois, part of the Ray Hall Letterman team, is doing a fantastic job saving it right there. Now sits in 12th place. 133 laps complete at the greatest racetrack in the world. Your leader, Tony Kanaan, Dario Franchitti, Dan Weldon, Andretti Green going 1, 2, and 3 here at the greatest spectacle in racing. Much more of the 89th annual Indianapolis 500 when we return only on ABC. And providing aerial coverage for today's race is Freedom, the AmeriQuest mortgage blimp. A perfect day for the blimp today. As you can see, not a cloud in the skies. We welcome you back to the mecca of racing, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the 89th edition of this grand event. With just over 60 laps to go until someone gets the sweetest drink of milk you'll ever taste. Todd Harris along with Scott Goodyear. And Scott, so far so good, but as you look forward, if you're a team manager, what are you telling your drivers in the top 5?
Well, just to be smart, keep focused. This is the point of the race where actually lots of things can happen. You don't want any errors by the driver, especially in traffic. And as I mentioned before, as we see a lot of the cars going past the traffic right now, Buddy Lazier starting to have a look at Danny Weldon, Vitor Mirror right there, Scott Sharp getting caught in the traffic. And who's up top with Sebastian Bourdais? Man, I can't believe he kept it all the way around there. And there's Hornish having right now a good run going around the outside and getting back behind Scott Sharp. Wow. This is 4 wide right down to the grass, Todd.
Something that Brian Barnhart, the president and COO of the Indy Racing League, does not want to see. Safety is always his first concern, and sending that many guys into that big of a corner is not something he's going to want to see. There's Danica Patrick, number 16. Let's look at this again, Scotty. This is lap guys and guys on the lead lap.
And I'll tell you why I think they can do this, Todd. I talked about the grinding of the track before. You can see how it's all discolored. But look how far Sebastian Bourdais is up around going out the side of Hornish. Look at that, 4 abreast through turn 1. Never before have you been able to do that. And this situation here, as right now, everybody's sort of just holding their steering wheel, not trying to move it too much because people are going around both ways. Danica Patrick says, excuse me, pardon me, coming through. Look how aggressive she is. She's looking everywhere.
She is trying to find a way around. Thomas Indy, number 2 from the Czech Republic in the Rockstar ride, not letting her around. And Danica, you can see she was so anxious to get out of that pack.
That is the aggression that you can see she has. Whenever you speak with her, she is very focused and she is very fit and fast, I always say. You know something, the race isn't over for her yet.
Just ahead of her is number 7, that's Brian Hurt in the XM satellite car. Behind her, Thomas Inge of the Czech Republic in the Rockstar ride. And here comes Thomas Schechter, that's Inge's teammate. And this is the battle for 9th. Thomas Inge, the rookie, 2:03. Danica Patrick also around the same time, but Danica had been mired all the way back into 16th. She's back up to 10th. Let's check in with Vince Welch.
Michael Andretti has cars 1, 2, and 3, but you were just shaking your head a few moments ago. Is there something that's leaving you unhappy?
No, it's just a little hairy out there going 4 abreast here. It is a little hairy, but, you know, we're just hanging in here. Still got a long way to go, but we'll have to see what happens.
When you see all this racing, does it make you miss it?
No, I'm glad I'm sitting here right here.
Is it too early, and at what point maybe do you start letting yourself think about the possibility of getting your first Indy win?
Well, I think after the last pit stop, we'll have a better idea where we stand.
Thank you, Michael. Jerry?
Guys, Indy is all about family, and a moment ago when Dario Franchitti took the lead, his wife, Ashley Judd, was so nervous she needed some help, so her sister, Winona, sat down beside her. They are sitting here holding hands because they both know how much Dario Franchitti wants it here in the lap looking down.
Well, that will make their pulse quick, Dr. Punch, as Dario has just been passed by Tony Kanaan, their teammates, but there have been no racing orders. And this is an unbelievable race. Lap 144 of 200. It's the 89th edition of the Indianapolis 500, and a man who has done it 11 times, Scott Goodyear, I cannot get over the pace at which they're going.
Here's Danica's radio. We're still seeing 225, 226 laps by all the top drivers. The key thing I took out of Michael...
4 laps till we stop. 56 laps to race. 56 laps to go.
Okay, she's on the radio complaining she needs a change, and that's why he tells her 4 laps left to go. She knows she's going to get an improved car from that point onwards. Go back to Michael Andretti for a second. He's a driver. He knows exactly what it means. Let's see the type of car we have after the last pit stop. Todd.
One car pit out.
There's your spotter telling her there's a car coming out pit out, and Danica just...
You're clear. You got 3 cars back.
She just keeps it flat.
Flat all the way through. When Adrian Fernandez was coming off onto the racetrack.
So Danica Patrick right now, number 16, has moved back in the top 10. And speaking of moving, Dario Franchitti, number 27, has just moved past his teammate, Tony Kanaan. So Dario Franchitti doing his wife, Ashley Judd, proud as he goes to the lead. And this really is a family event. You see Dario with his wife, Ashley. You talk about the Andretti's. And Vince Welch, his son, Dylan Welch, winner last night in the quarter midgets in Terre Haute, Indiana. What is it with racing in the family?
Well, it's got to be just sort of feverish for everybody right now, but let me just think about this for a second as we look at the judge over there on the left-hand side. I think the other thing the IRL and Brian Barnhart and the technical staff has done this year is put a great aerodynamic package on these cars, and they've changed the rear wings just a little bit with the wickers, the little flaps that go on both sides of the rear wing, and it's created a bigger hole for the cars to actually draft off of, and I think that's allowing all these guys to get a great draft and a great speed up in the car that's in front. As we ride along with Kanaan right now, that's exactly what he's going to try and do. Get the draft out of the car in front. Oh, no. Sam Hornish Jr., the right front corner, just the right front corner only, probably pushed it up towards the wall.
Scott, by the time we got to him, something had already taken place. You saw that right front wheel that was out. And
Is he okay there?
Todd, as we're sitting there looking, we talk about the tires, how great they are from Firestone, but tires do wear. There's a lot of rubber marbles up on the upper side of that racetrack right there. You can see the disappointment by the team because they know they had a fast car. I talk about those rubber marbles. That's all this rubber that you see sitting here right there because he's upside out of the groove.
Roger Penske asking if he's okay. We haven't heard him say anything yet, but I wonder if that's just frustration. He is getting out of the car as the Delphi safety crew gets over there. These guys are amazing how fast they get there to the driver's aid. Sam Hornish getting out under his own power, but something precipitated before our cameras got to Sam Hornish because that front right was already damaged.
We'll have to go back and have a look at that, but remember we talked about Sam Hornish flipping over just last week. Well, I sat with the Penske guys before. So we see right now down below with Bourdais. Bourdais is going to get a wiggle there because he's down the white line, pushes Sam up outside the groove. We're getting past half distance right now, and those rubber marbles I was just mentioning a moment ago are starting to creep down into the racing line, and those right front wheels, Sam gets on the rubber marbles and takes it right up into that safer barrier, and that was the cause of that incident. But going back to the Marlboro guys, Penske turned around after Sam hurt his knee on this flip over crash. They turned around and came back with some suits with little pockets on the knees and put in some Kevlar carbon fiber protectors over the knees for these drivers in case it ever happened again. So we see Sam Hornish's car going back into the wall. We ride along right now with Scott Sharp. See how far down low Sebastian Bourdais is. He comes up, gets a wiggle, and just turns around and takes out Sam Hornish.
Scott, when he gets to that point, it almost looked like he had lost steering completely, and the rubber marbles that much effective on the grip of the tire. They're just not going to get anything.
Two things happen actually. All those little rubber marbles get on the tire because the tire is burning hot, about 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and that rubber turns around, gets on the tire, builds up on it very quickly, raises the ride height of the car. So we see Sam Hornish inside the safety truck right now, and then also it takes your grip factor away, and the car just starts to push. The steering wheel gets light, almost like you're driving on ice or snow, and then you're just a passenger, Todd. You go off towards that safer barrier, and there's nothing you can do. The white truck on your right-hand side is Dr. Doc Bach, who's actually going to turn around and actually take him into the safety section there, into the infield, into the hospital, and have an inspection with Sam.
5 Indy starts for the 25-year-old out of Defiance, Ohio. Number 6, Sam Hornish Jr. had led this race. Unfortunately for the Marlboro Team Penske driver, his day is done. Penske Perfect can only do so much, Scott. That is just physics. When you get up in that area, there's nothing he could have done.
It's unfortunate because Sam has not had the luck here. It looked like he had the car, but remember, they did a wing adjustment last time during that last pit stop. It makes me wonder whether or not the car wasn't quite right for Sam, and obviously he's trying to give Bourdais a little bit of room, and sometimes you try to be a nice guy, and then you get caught out.
Let's quickly check in while we're under yellow with Jamie Little.
Well, Richie Hearn has emerged from the medical center, took a little extra time. Obviously, we have some crutches here. What happened to you, Richie?
You know, it was just a lot going on out there, and as I turned in, I didn't see Scott, and you know, I didn't hear the spotter or anything, and just turned in. A lot of people trying to get through turn 1, and purely my fault, not his fault. I feel bad for him, and feel bad for the guys at Koch and Meyer. They gave me a good car, and really we were coming in that lap, so we were trying to get back on the lead lap, and I mean, what are you going to do? It just happened.
Let's talk about your car owner, Sam Schmidt. We talked about him at the top of our show. What an inspirational story. He's in a wheelchair. He's running your team. He had 4 cars in the Menards Infinity Pro Series race. What does he like to drive for? I know you've driven for him in the past.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine, and he's put together a good crew, and he's done very well in the IPS stuff. I feel bad that I wrecked his car, but I don't know. He's a good guy, and he's a racer too. So I mean, it's pretty heated action out there. So he just got kind of caught up.
All right, tough day for Richie Hearn in the Sam Schmidt car. Guys, we'll send it up to you.
34-year-old Richie Hearn as the cars come down. Here it is. This could be the turning point in the race, Scott. Do you give the nod to Tony Kanaan? He's not on pit row yet. Dan Weldon's first to hit his box.
Good job, right on the mark. Good job.
And Dan Weldon is the first out, but he has the longest to come down the long front straightaway. Now we begin to stack them up. Vitor Mira on the inside almost gets crashed, but a great stop for Mira as well than Mira. And it looks like Mario Franchitti got 3rd and 4th. Well, that was a gaggle, guys. We got to go to the video replay to see that. I'm not sure who it was, and I was standing right here.
Well, there would be definitely a video replay between Bourdais and actually Kanaan because it was so close I could not even tell from up here, Todd.
And there you see who moved up, who moved down. Dario Franchitti had a good pit, but he did drop a spot, as did Tony Kanaan. And we'll get a look at our Quaker State pit out cam when we can, but here they come back out on the track, Scott. So let's make a note of this. They have pitted just about 150.
Okay, interesting to note that Kanaan's first on the racetrack and Bourdais behind him, but we believe that Bourdais may have beat him to the line, so we'll have to see if the IRL is going to reverse that on the racetrack before they go green.
Here it is one more time. Here's the Q pit exit cam. Yeah, it's Dan Weldon.
Miera, who did a great job, great stop by Ray Hall Letterman. And a moment passes by in the next group, Franchitti. And it looks like certainly Bourdais maybe just beat out Kanaan just by a nose.
It is that close in the Indy Racing League in the Indianapolis 500. We are under yellow with just 50 laps to go. Stick around for the exciting conclusion. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Polite conversation doesn't exist at 220 miles an hour. Here, the closest thing to a formal greeting is driver, meet wall. Welcome to Speed City.
We are riding on board the pace car. Good look at the convertible Chevrolet Corvette, official pace car of the 2005 Indy 500. Just a reminder, Saturday, Lisa Leslie leads the LA Sparks into Sacramento to take on Nicole Powell and the Monarchs, the WNBA on ABC, Saturday, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. And as we remain under yellow, we check in with our Brent Musburger.
You know, Todd, we've got a remarkable story unfolding with Danica Patrick. She, of course, was the darling of the lead-in to this race. She did all the publicity interviews. They posed her for photos. She never turned anybody down. And at the start, she followed Bobby Rahall's advice. She gave ground. She was very, very patient. She began to stalk the lead. In a lap 56, she became the first woman ever to lead a lap here at Indy. But then at lap 79, she stalled the engine in the pits. She was running in the top 5 at the time, and she fell back to 16. But folks, that's where this story begins. Watch here as she comes off a dangerous bump with Matsura, saves it again on lap 121 and keeps on coming. What a competitor she is. And in traffic, she has been tough. Watch this in 142. Looking for daylight. An amazing saga. She has now, believe it or not, Todd, climbed all the way back up to 8th place. Out there stalking a top 10 finish. This would be remarkable for this rookie.
All right, thank you, Brent. As we take a look at our rookie tracker right now, Sebastian Bourdais, Danica Patrick, Thomas Inga proving that they belong. And remember, Danica Patrick, the first woman ever to lead a lap at the Indianapolis 500. We are still under yellow at Indianapolis. We will take a break. When we come back, much more of the 500 after this short break.
We are still under a yellow here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. When we go green, we'll have less than 50 laps to go. And it is time again to check in on the Yamaha Tech Desk. So we go back to our colleague, Jack Aru. Jack.
Brent, I'm down here by this cutaway car, and I've pulled out a tiny little dime, and I want to use it to explain to you what Scott Goodyear was talking about with these so-called side wickers or side gurney flaps. They're a small piece of steel that are affixed to the end plates on each car. You notice they're not even as thick as a thin dime as far as standing side on the side like this. But what it has actually done is when the wind comes off of the rear wing, it actually widens way out. It gives you a real nice look out there. That accounts for some of the 3 wide that we've seen. But sometimes, J.B. Little, when you go 3 wide, it doesn't work out to your advantage.
That's right. Well, Sam Hornish Jr. started second after leading 77 laps. It looked like it was finally going to be your day. Sam, what happened?
Just one of those things where there's so many things going on out there. Everybody's jockeying for position. We got some slower cars, got in traffic, and the car had been pushing a little bit, and I tried to give the guy plenty of room, but it wasn't enough for him, and just started moving me up, coming off the corner, which made the car push more and more. And just unfortunate for the Marlboro Team Penske Troop crew. The guys have done an awesome job all month, and hopefully things will go a little bit better next year.
Sam, we had some exciting battles at the front there. What does it feel like?
Okay,
and we have an exit. We're going to go back upstairs.
Oh,
Sam Hornish Jr. is okay. Guys?
All right, thank you for that report, Jamie. A big crash under yellow, Scott. Looks like they were coming up to speed and 2 people touched, and it looks like right there Danica may have been involved. But as she comes through?
No, that's the...
that's the 44 of Jeff Bucknam. She's coming down pit road.
Okay, she is missing part of her left front wing. So you'll notice right over there on the right-hand side, the very front of the car.
Wow. Hey, I saw her car going there. I saw her colors. There is the damage to Danica Patrick, number 16. She will bring it in.
Finish that. Then we're looking at a front nose. All right. That's it. Tires and fuel. Tires and fuel. Get it done.
Guys, damage in the front nose piece. The left front wing is gone. There's a huge gash in the nose cone of the car. And she sits here and she's talking to the crew right now, but unfortunately she happened to be in the wrong place at the right time. After battling her way back in the top 10, they are trying to get a backup nose here and tools out. It happens so quickly, the crew now trying to make sure they get the nose cone off. They typically can change this in less than about 3.5 minutes or so as we listen in now to her revving the engine to keep it from stalling.
What she told them, Doc Punch, was a lead lap. She's very smart. She says, let's go back out maybe and come back in and do this when we're going to have the opportunity to not lose the lead lap.
Middle of your screen, here's where it looks like people are trying to warp tires or something.
Yeah, and that would be Danica that actually was trying to get on the throttle on the right-hand side of the top, it looks like, and get the car down on the lower side when she started to come across the track, actually. So cold tires, and here she is on the top side trying to go around the top of Scott Sharp. Gets on the gas, starts just to try to avoid him, and probably just starts to clip him with her nose. There you can see another shot of it. She's on the high side. There you go. It wiggles because she's on the power, the cold tires, turns around, and starts to take out about 3 or 4 cars, guys. That's just creating a lot of accident debris there in that situation. Here we go along with Thomas Schechter. Let's see what we can see on this one.
There's Danica making her move on the right.
You can see that she's wiggling already. And Thomas, boy, is he getting lucky on that? Well, maybe not so. There we go. Another strong car out of the race. And here we are with Danica. Listen here as she gets on the power. Yep, that's cold tires usually on there after a situation like that.
Did she get checked up, though, do you think? Because it looked like it caught her off guard when Scott Sharp started slowing down in front of her.
Well, you got to go exactly from the guy that's leading up front. You're not sort of watching the car in front of you. You're watching the whole leader group as it moves as a pack. But she was doing the right thing in the sense that she wanted to get a jump on Scott Sharp. She had moved herself all the way up to 8th after actually being on the very tail end of the lead lap. She did a great job that way, but now we'll have to see if she's damaged any other part of her car. You can see the wing has now been replaced. The front nose cone, the wings are all part of the whole complete section.
Well, after a very fast-paced, 140 laps, Scott, things have come to really a screeching halt as we brought the pace way down. This is Elio Castroneves, who's done some of the best driving all day long, avoiding debris.
And he's got a big wheel mark on his side pod on the left-hand side, so we'll have to find out what happened with that also. But you can see all the rubber on the front of the car, especially on these white cars. That's how much debris and everything comes off this racetrack. And as the race goes on past halfway, we always talk about the rubber marbles, which caught out, obviously, Sam Hornish, and maybe even caught out Danica Patrick, because as soon as you get high on there and you get those rubber marbles on your tires, that's the key situation. There is absolutely no grip.
We are still under yellow. Exactly. This is our 4th yellow because we never went green. The accident happened on the 4th yellow. So that's where we stand right now on lap 156 as we check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Adam Danica Patrick's pits with Bobby Rahal. And Bobby, first of all, the damage report on the car.
Just the nose, it looks like. She says it feels fine, so no harm, no foul.
Your vantage point from the big screens, what you saw might have happened out there?
I can't really see it. I think they just mess with each other up there. They get going and some guy checks everybody up, and the accordion effect. But that's what she said. Everybody was going off, and then all of a sudden it slowed up in front of her, and so.
Your thoughts on her performance though today? I know you've been very encouraging on the radio.
Well, I mean, I think she's doing a great job. Stalling the car, that hurt us in terms of field position, but she's worked her way back up, and there's still plenty of time.
All right, Bobby Rahal giving words of encouragement. Still plenty of time for Danica Patrick to try to get back to where she needs to be.
Always good to have a 1986 Indianapolis 500 winner in your ears. Danica Patrick says, "I'm sorry." We will be back to a very exciting conclusion of the 2005 Indianapolis 500 as we come down to the final 40 laps of this epic. Stay with us. You're watching the 89th Indy 500 on ABC. Welcome back to ABC's coverage of the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. Last night, Tim Duncan and the Spurs took a 3-0 lead on the Suns and are now 1 win away from a trip to the finals. Tomorrow night, it's do or die for league MVP Steve Nash and company as they try to fight off elimination in Game 4 tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on ABC Sports, home of the NBA Finals. We are still under yellow here as Danica Patrick has had to come back in because she came into the pits when the pits weren't open. So she has to come in, Scott, and make a pit. And they're making the right decision there. Full tires and fuel, might as well take advantage of it. But as we spin forward, I'm starting to think, and that's something I know is dangerous that I do, but where do you see this thing shaking out? Because they're saying now, our pit reporters are saying now, the next pit, and they will have to make one more pit, the leaders, is going to come right around 180.
Well, the key thing, and Michael Andretti said it, let's see where our car is after the last pit stop. And he was a driver, and as a driver myself, you know that you can either get it right or get it wrong in the last pit stop. We saw how fast Sam Hornish moved back after his stop. When they did an adjustment, the car was not very good and actually put him into the situation where he actually ended up being around a car that actually took him up into the wall. The key thing right now, though, is communicate with your team manager and the engineers. Try and figure out how the track is changing, the temperature is changing, and make sure your car is the best it can be for that last run. As we said, lap 180 forward, it always changes. 32% of the people that have actually led at lap 180 have actually not won this event. And then 15 times the driver leading in lap 190 has not won this race. And I think I fall underneath that category, Todd.
I'm going to give you a pass on that one. Okay. We check in with our Jackaroo.
Well, Scott, let me stir up the pot a little bit more between lap 180 and 190. Keep your eye on Scott Sharp. There's a lot of talk going on down in his Delphi crew about the possibility of doing simply a fuel and go. Firestone tires look real good on the car. They keep telling Scott to conserve fuel here during this caution. The way you can do that with these new Honda motors and the Toyotas and Chevrolets, they can actually do what we do out in these new passenger cars. They alternate the firing of the cylinders, and they can make as much as 11, get that, 11 miles per gallon under caution. You get about 1 lap per gallon here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Jerry, when they go back to green.
And Jack, consider this now. Danica Patrick just pitted a moment ago, and all the other lead cars have to come in between laps 183 and 187. If now they're calculating here in her pits, if they could get a handful or more of yellow flag laps between now and then, she might, and again, the word is might, be able to make it, and that would be a huge way for her to be able to get here and finish it without having to stop again, as we check in with Vince.
Dan Weldon currently the race leader. Of course, there you get a look at Michael Andretti. He's the team owner. Weldon will come in after lap 180, very similar to as Jack and Jerry reported. I asked the team manager, John Anderson, you've had good tire wear today on the long runs. Is there a possibility you would not take tires, just fuel? And he said, we're not ruling anything out. It's a possibility, but we'll have to make that decision a little further down the road.
Unbelievable, folks. If you are not a race fan, if you're a casual race fan and you're just joining us, do yourself a favor. Stay with us for the final 40 laps. Something is going to shake down and someone is going to get their face on the Borg Warner Trophy. As we take a look at Helio Castroneves, he has had 2 very tight escapes today, Scotty. He is lucky to still be out on course.
Well, you know, 2 wins here, and then as we see him right now in the highlight shadow, just missing all the crashes that are going on. And here's the situation. Watch as he goes past Danica right there, going onto the pit lane. Some great heads-up driving by a 2-time winner here, Helio Castroneves.
So if you ever need to make a flight or your wife's expecting a baby, hire Helio Castroneves. He will get you there quickly. You know, the thing that's amazing about that, Scott, is the speed he was doing that around 200 miles an hour. The reflexes.
I'll tell you what. You know, and it is reflexes. It's not a thinking program, actually, when this sort of thing happens. But as we're watching these cars on the track right now, Brian Herta is taking advantage of this, and he's actually come in, and they're actually refilling the car with fuel, and they're going to send it out there so he has an opportunity to actually maybe make it to the end.
Jamie Little?
I certainly wouldn't count out the number 3. He just came in for his 8th pit stop. He's had his work cut out for him. They've been chasing the setup. He just came in, topped it off, got 4 tires. Look for him to be a contender in the end. Todd?
All right, kids, crack out the abacus. You've got Brian Herta, Helio Castroneves, and Danica Patrick, who have all pitted around lap 160. And as they reported, Vince and Dr. Punch, if they dial it down, Scott, and get a few more laps of yellow, they could go the rest of the race. So they would shuffle to the front when everyone else had to come in for their final pit stop.
Usually around 30 laps of green flag racing, they would definitely need a little bit more yellow conditions.
Green flag.
There you hear the command. Once again, the green flag comes out, and we are back up to racing speed. The restart, oh so critical. Dan Weldon is your leader as he brings them to the historic Yard of Bricks.
Mira does a slingshot run right outside of Weldon, and look at Franchitti, thinks that he'd like to have a look on the inside.
On board with the pole sitter, Tony Kanaan. He is the defending IndyCar Series champion. Sebastian Bourdais slides in underneath him. Is Tony Kanaan now playing games with the Andretti Green team? They brought in Brian Herta, so they've got 1 team member that can stay out there possibly to the end of the race.
And there goes Lazier, actually past Kanaan and also past Sharp. A dark horse that we talked about, but let's also give credit to Vitor Mira right now. The first ever time that he's led the Indianapolis 500, and he's walking these guys as the rest of these guys are now turning around and starting to fight each other.
36 laps to go with the greatest spectacle in racing as we ride on board with Tony Kanaan. Vitor Mira is your leader, part of the Ray Hall Letterman team. Dan Weldon sits in second, Dario Franchitti in third, and Sebastian Bourdais, part of the Newman Haas team, now sits in fourth.
Look at the draft that Weldon's looking for. Mira goes down to the low side just to sort of stop his run.
All clear.
The spotter for Mira tells him that he's all clear. That fast that debris comes across the little camera lens there. I'll tell you something though, he is definitely faster coming out of 4 right now. Look at Weldon, he got such a great run on Mira.
Top left of your screen, those are the drivers and their cars who are out of the race. We started with 33, and it has been by attrition and driving like that we have lost drivers as Dario Franchitti starting to feel a little anxious. Will not lose the position. Franchitti holding down 3rd place, the 27 ARC X car. This guy is as cool as they come.
I'll tell you, having somebody dive on the inside of you like that, Bourdais just grabbed that car by all 4 wheels and slugged it down underneath Franchitti. I thought they were going to connect.
Sebastian Bourdais, number 37, he is the rookie out of Le Mans, France. He just returned from Mexico, taking part in the Grand Prix of Monterey. But your leader right now is Dan Weldon. Vitor Mira sits in second, Dario Franchitti in third, and then Sebastian Bourdais.
I'll tell you, Todd, by watching this right now, Vitor Mira does not have as strong a car as those 2 Andretti Green cars, because although he may be the same speed on the straight, those Andretti Green cars look like they work better through the turns and then coming off the turns at a higher speed. So Now Mira's going to have to turn around and make some adjustments inside his car with his weight jackers or something of that nature, his anti-roll bar, to try and make that car work just a little bit better, because those little devices help the suspension handle the turns a little bit better, and maybe he might be able to pick up some more speed going through the turn.
Scott, with 34 laps to go, Danica Patrick, Brian Herta, you saw Elio Castroneves, they all rolled the dice. They came in early. With this pace, can they go the distance?
Well, I doubt it, Todd. You know something, unless they run this thing real lean, but I'll tell you something, 222, 24 miles an hour average, it's going to be very tough. They're going to have to bet on the yellow, and right now I don't think they're thinking that they're going to see that.
There are your Toyota lap leaders, and that may be the most important fact of the day. Danica Patrick, the first woman ever to lead a lap at the Indianapolis 500. The lap leader right now for Toyota lap leaders is Sam Hornish Jr. Unfortunately, he is no longer in the race. He had his incident several laps ago. He is done for the day. Back to racing action with 33 laps complete, and it is Dan Weldon out in front. Vitor Mira sits in second, and it comes down to this. It is the battle of the super teams. Andretti Green, Rahal Letterman, once again doing battle in Indianapolis in the month of May. How will it shake out? Stick around and find out. You're watching the Indianapolis 500 from Speed City right here on ABC.
Ever hear 600 horses screaming? Ever smell high-octane food? Ever seen risk beat reward with a 2x4? You can here. Welcome to Speed City.
Welcome back to Speed City. Unfortunately, we are Yellow City right now. Roger Yasukawa just moments ago, something gave loose in the back end, Scott. There was spray coming out, the white smoke. For safety reasons, they had to bring out the yellow.
Anytime you see that rear engine cover coming off, you know it's not very good. There's the steering wheel coming off. He's going to climb out. The key thing there, if there's any oil on the track, you have to go out and inspect it, especially when these cars are seeing over 4 Gs in the turns, Todd, and you're doing 225, 30 miles an hour down the straightaway. We've been seeing laps at 224, 226, even at this late stage in the race.
171 laps complete. Who does this play well for, and who does it hurt?
Well, actually, it plays well for just about everybody, obviously, that was going to need a pit stop. Right now, you know, the guys that are, as we're hearing Weldon's radio, the guys that were maybe trying to run a fuel strategy right now, they might as well come in, make sure they got enough fuel, and put some fresh tires on.
And you heard it, the pits are open, so it comes down to this. If you don't think the over-the-wall guys are important, they could win or lose the Indy 500 right now. Keep your eye on Dan Weldon's crew, Dario Franchides, and of course Tony Kanaan, but Vitor Mira, part of the Rahal Letterman, they have been very smooth as we check in with Vince.
Dan Weldon coming into the pit box. His crew is ready. They've had some flawless stops today. It has been a very good day in the pits for Dan Weldon in the 26. Here he comes. Crew is ready for fuel. The Firestone Firehawks are out. Weldon hits his marks perfectly. The tires are coming off. The fuel is in. So far, no mistakes. Everything very solid. Down and out. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
No tires from Vitor Mira. No tires. Fuel only. He was here 4 seconds. Jackaroo.
Dario Franchides is out before his teammate, but watch this. Fuel only and 2 clicks on the front wing. By my estimation, he gained about 3 positions, guys.
Wow. I tell you what, Danny Weldon better buy his boys a nice steak tonight if they aren't vegetarians. They got that thing out in under 10 seconds. Unfortunately, his pit lane is out in the middle. Vitor Mira got the jump on him, so Vitor Mira really, by virtue, got a better position. Danica Patrick, your leader. Danica Patrick leads the Indianapolis 500. And this is legit. 172 laps complete, and you heard Danica. Everyone say a prayer.
You can get on that pace car, draft him. You can do it. Just get right up on him. He's going to hold he's on cruise control.
Look at the crowd standing up and waving just to salute her winning this. And they say, following behind the pace car. They want to save any fuel they can right now. And it doesn't matter if it's 1 small ounce in the tank full. They know that this is a bit of a risk, but you know something? This is the strategy of the Indianapolis 500 right now. Listen to them.
Look at your watch. Mark this date, May 29th, 2005, as you witness a history-making performance. 50 years from now, you will remember where you were when Danica Patrick made not only motorsports history, but she joined the likes of Amelia Earhart and Sally Ride in a barrier-breaking performance in this 89th Indianapolis 500. And the fans, Give her an ovation as she comes around. Now, Scott, strategy is playing out right here. Remember, she pitted much earlier. I don't think she can go 40 laps on her fuel, but they're telling her to move up on the pace car and draft. They're trying to conserve that much fuel.
Well, the whole thing right now, if there's going to be, there's their mother. Now, here's the situation. You're in front. You're leading the Indianapolis 500. You don't know if you have enough fuel right now to make it to the end. There's Michael Andretti. Talk about being nervous as a driver. Could never bite his thumbs when he was actually driving the race car. I could never get him in the helmet. But the key thing right now is that she has to have a great restart. Remember the last restart? Didn't do such a great job. The pressure is on her, leading the pack right now, and she knows everybody's watching.
Brian likes that.
There are more than 300,000 seats available here because everyone is standing. Danica Patrick leads them around. And the green flag is out. Danica will lead them around. We are 173 laps complete, working on 174 as they all move forward.
She takes the middle lane so she can defend both ways. That's Briscoe behind her right now, who's not in second. He's actually running as a back marker, as you might want to call it. Done a great job here as a rookie, though.
For strategy reasons, though, Scott, and not historical reasons, would it be better for Danica if she let Briscoe slide in front of her and used his draft to conserve fuel?
No, not going to happen. She's faster right now. She wants to put as much distance as possible between him and the car that's in second, which is actually the third car on the racetrack.
If you're just joining us, Danica Patrick, number 16, leads the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. 187 men have done it, never a woman until today. Danica Patrick brings it across the yard of bricks one more time. Can she hold on? Can she conserve the fuel with 24 laps to go?
And this is perfect, Todd, right now, because Briscoe, who is in 12th position, 1 lap down, is actually starting to hold up Curta and Mira, who are running second and third. Tell you what, she's in her cockpit right now, looking in the mirrors, going, thank you very much. Right now, Ryan Briscoe, she's starting to stretch a bit of a lead out.
The entire racing world tuning in now to see if Danica Patrick can turn the trick and win the 89th edition of the Indianapolis 500. We remind you, she pitted with 40-plus laps to go. Fuel would tell us, Scott, she cannot make it on the fuel or the tires, but she is going to give it a run.
She's going to give it a run. What she's hoping for right now as we look at the keys to the race, obviously the patience is a big thing. We saw Kenny Brackus out, did a great job, but you know something, lap 180 is coming up. It's a sprint rush, but look at the last one. Lady Luck, you know, maybe she's going to get a bit of that today. The key thing, though, I have to tell you, is that she's hoping for a yellow right now so she can get a few more laps under yellow to get that fuel conservation right to the end of the race.
Are the stars aligned? The blue sky is out. Danica Patrick leads as we throw it down to Dr. Jerry Punch.
Guys, the work is ongoing here in the pits. You look at Danica's mom, you know, unbelievable emotion down here from Bev Patrick. But I talked to Ray Lito, the engineers, and what they are trying to calculate right now is if she stays out front, she's really getting pretty good fuel mileage. And they say we are so close to making it right now, we have no choice but to roll the dice. We're going to go for it. We think, again, they said we think we can make it.
You want a top 10 list? I got one for you. Top 10 reasons why David Letterman is going great, because Danica Patrick is leading the 89th running of the Indy 500. Can she do it? Ryan Briscoe is a back marker. He is right behind her. It is Danica Patrick, your leader.
Use a lap car.
Number 7 is Brian Herta.
Going around him now.
Dan Weldon is lurking in 4th, and Vitor Mira, her teammate, sits in 3rd. How would this be? Would Vitor Mira let Danica Patrick get the victory? Can he help her?
Oh, absolutely no way. You're not going to give it to your teammate. You wouldn't give it to your mother. But I'll tell you right now, she's got that thing running so lean. Her lap speeds are going down a little bit. They're trying to make it to the end. That's why those group is catching her, because they're running lean, low horsepower, and slower speeds.
We are going to take a very, very quick commercial break. When we come back, the concluding laps of the 89th Indy 500. Can Danica Patrick do it? Stick around and find out. This is it, the concluding laps of the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. 181 laps complete. We are working lap 182, and folks, Danica Patrick, the lone female in the field, leads this historic race. Now, Scott, the strategy is The camps are saying push her forward, make her burn fuel, while the rest of them are not, conserving because they made the pit stop. Danica did not.
Well, regardless of what's happening right now, Todd, where she is in the fuel, even if she has to come in and she doesn't win this race, you know something? Even though the odds are against her, regardless of her finish today, she has made a statement here today, and she has proved that she belongs here with the best drivers in the world. And I'll tell you something, if she doesn't win today, boy, she's going to be winning for the rest of the season. Count her as a contender for the championship.
Lap 183, we are going 200, and your leader is that young lady, number 16, part of the Ray Hall Letterman team. That is Danica Patrick. Brian Herta, part of the Andretti Green team, and the XM Satellite number 7 car sits right behind her. That is Bev Patrick, the most nervous mother in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway area. As we welcome you to this great event, Todd Harris, along with Scott Goodyear, Brent Musburger, and our entire pit crew of Jack Arute, Jerry Punch, Jamie Little, and Vince Welch. Also, Penn Holderness. Strap in, folks. It's going to be a good one. Well, we thought this could happen. Everyone knew she had the talent, Scott, and we are seeing it play out, but Dan Weldon is coming and coming fast.
Danny Weldon's having a look at his teammate, right? Brian Herta, which is that yellow and black XM Satellite car. You know, it makes you wonder where everybody is right now on fuel strategy, because they should have enough to get to the end. Both the second and third place drivers are Herta and Weldon, and Mir is not far behind. He should have enough to get to the end also. Remember, he's a teammate to Danica Patrick, who's leading this event right now.
Let's check in with Vince Welch.
You've been talking about Danica Weldon, or Danica Patrick, and how she's having to run her fuel lean. Well, Dan Weldon is running it as rich as it'll get. He's on setting number 1, so that means that the car is as powerful as it can be from a fuel perspective, and he is coming strong, chasing down the leader.
Scott, is there anything she can do? I mean, I know she's trying to conserve fuel, but when they're coming that fast, they're either going to pass her or they're going to push her. What does she do?
Well, Weldon's just gone around Herta right now, so he's setting his sights straight ahead on Danica Patrick, who's done an outstanding job here all month and is fastest on carburation day. And remember, she had that little slip up on qualifying in turn 1 and lap 1. Otherwise, she might have been on pole. The key thing for her right now, Todd, is just to keep steady, look ahead of herself, and not look in the mirrors too much, and just listen to the spotters if Dan gets close. Remember, she's on that lean fuel trim, not making the horsepower out of the engine. Her car's not going to go down the straight as fast as Danny Weldon, who is running 100% fuel by the report that we got from Vince Welch. Now, she knows where she's sitting. The key thing she has to do, though, is just be patient and make sure she makes no mistakes.
Danica Patrick leads the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500, but for how long? Dan Weldon on the inside. He gets a run. Does he have enough? Oh! And there's a yellow flag coming out, and we have an incident taking place.
Yellow.
And how will this shake out?
Well, I'll tell you what, that yellow needed to be maybe a turn earlier, and Kosuke Masura right now looks like he has absolutely no brakes on that car as he starts to come down across the racetrack, but it'll be tough to get around Danny Weldon on a restart. If Patrick was ahead, that would be the key.
And that's how it shakes down. Kosuke Matsur, if that yellow had come 5 seconds earlier, they would have frozen the positions on the track, which means Danica Patrick would have been out in front with 13 laps to go. And it depends on how long this yellow takes, Scott. Let's look at this one more time. Now, look how close this is.
It goes by the line, the yard of bricks that we all feel when we go across them sitting in the car, and it's going to be just by a nose.
Oh.
Danny Weldon, the car closest to our screen right there. You know something, she is using a term that we can't say on TV right now, because I'll tell you what, she was in front. If she could run 100% fuel, get that horsepower, if we have, say, maybe like 8 laps left to go once this is cleaned up, she might have been able to stay in front.
And Scott, with that yellow coming out, as the guys have reported down the pitch, she could have dialed the fuel down even more, gone slower. There's Kosuke Matsura going into the wall. We certainly want to discount his incident. We want to make sure he's okay, but there it is. Just slides up high.
Just out of the groove just a little bit. You see all the debris coming off the car right there, and here we go, back across the line. Oh. Sort of reminds me of my finish in 1992, actually.
That's something we don't talk about with you in the booth. So Dan Weldon has gone in front of Danica Patrick with just a few laps to go in the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. By how much? By that much. When we come back, we will see how the whole thing comes down to the yard of bricks and the 200th lap. Stay with us. Much more of the Indy 500 next.
Now, as we watch this, as the cars come down towards the start and finish line, you're going to actually turn around and see the green light that's just up here. And as we turn around and watch the cars run down, we don't know if it's Danica or Dan Weldon that's made it, but as we're going to go along, we're going to turn and stop it right there for a moment, okay? And you're going to have an opportunity to see the green light is on, still there. So, you know, in my mind, that pass by Dan Weldon should be clear, but we're still waiting for race control to give us a final verdict on that. And there goes the yellow light.
Let's go down to Vince Welch.
Well, here's an interesting perspective. Michael Andretti just said we would rather be in second place in this position. Why?
Well, you're sitting duck on a restart, so because of the draft. So I wish we would be second, but unfortunately we're first right now.
How about a little help from the fellow teammate Brian Herta in third position?
That's what I told him. If there was ever a day that he needs if there was ever a time for a good restart, it's right now. So hopefully he'll give it to us.
About 20 laps ago, I asked you about starting to think about your first Indianapolis 500 victory, and you said after the last pit stop. We made that last pit stop, and we're getting very close. Are you letting yourself think about it?
Yet. No, I'm not thinking about it yet. No.
Back upstairs.
Green flag, green flag. We are down to the final 10 laps of the Indianapolis 500. Dan Weldon, look at this.
And the crowd is jumping up and down, Todd. Look at this, it's absolutely amazing.
Danica Patrick has moved out into the front. It is Danica Patrick leading with Dan Weldon sitting in second. So the whole point with the green flag, and if the pass was legit or not, is moot. Danica Patrick is for real, and she leads.
Look at the crowd, just absolutely going crazy. You know, they've not sat down since the moment that she's actually taken the lead of this race.
All right, nice job. Keep looking forward. Look forward.
Now with
9 laps to go, Scott. Danica Patrick is there. Who was more nervous, Bobby Rahal or Danica Patrick or Danica's mom?
Well, you think about the history of all this going on here with the rivalry between Rahal and Andretti. You know something, in 1996, actually, or 1986, you had Bobby Rahal win this event. And the key thing right now is that Michael Andretti never won it as a driver, and he wants to win it as a team owner.
The last driver to win from the 4th position, Mr. Rahal. He is the owner of the Rahal Letterman team, and right now his driver is out there as we check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Guys, they have told Danica to go to fuel position 1. That is full rich. That's why she was able to make the pass on the restart. That is maximum power as the nerves now begin to build here. Now the question is, at fuel position 1, which is where she has to stay to be able to stay in front of Weldon, can she make it on fuel? And they really don't know now. They said it's going to be very, very close because all this power is burning up what little fuel they had left.
Dan Weldon takes a look on the inside, decides not to go there with 8 laps to go. He tucks in behind Danica one more time as we ride on board the Rahal Letterman Argent Honda. It is Danica Patrick.
If he goes by here, draft him. If he goes by, draft.
Draft just to save fuel, just in case.
Inside, clear.
And there he goes.
We're about 3 cars back. Let's get back in that draft. Try and stay in it.
We saw moments ago a shot of David Letterman. He's very nervous, very much still in this race. One of his drivers, number 17, that's Vitor Mir. You can just see the yellow top of his tub. But the leader now is Dan Weldon. He gets the pass. Can Danica conserve enough fuel to get another run on the Brit?
There's no doubt that the Andretti green car has been working better through the turns, coming off the turns faster onto the long straightaways. We saw that when Mira.
6 laps to go.
When we saw that when Mira was actually running around a couple of other Andretti green cars. Last year it was the opposite, where the Rahal Letterman cars like a Buddy Rice definitely had the car to beat. I talked about that rivalry that's going on right now. Michael Andretti never won this race as a driver. Bobby Rahal did. Bobby Rahal owns Danica Patrick's car. And now Michael Andretti just might get the win that eluded him as a driver, as a team owner.
And Scott, he has told us on many occasions throughout this year and last year, Dan Weldon, that is, your leader, that this is the race he wants to win. It doesn't matter all the other ones he's won. He's won 3 this year. This is the one he wants.
Just think about this, the 5th race, that'll be the 4th win so far this year. But I talked about the maturity of Danny Weldon. Remember, he came here a few years ago, tried to run Sam Hornish down into the grass, couldn't make turn 3, ended up on his roof in turn 4. And you know something, he has matured as a driver since then. He's learned from his teammates, he's learned from the tutelage from Michael Andretti. And you know something, he's absorbed it all. He's become a smart, patient race driver.
Not one person is sitting here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, because with 5 laps to go, Danica Patrick sits in 2nd place and has a shot at immortality. But right now, one of the best drivers on the planet is leading her, and that is Dan Weldon. It's Weldon, Patrick, and Vitor Meira, your top 3 with 4 laps to go.
Todd, we talked about the 92 finish when I finished 2nd to Alonso Jr. in that closest finish. 2nd changed my life. I cannot imagine how finishing 2nd is going to change the life of Danica Patrick if she ends up finishing here today in 2nd place.
With 4 laps to go, no woman has ever won the Indianapolis 500. Until today, no woman had ever led it until Danica Patrick burst onto the scene. Right now, with 4 laps to go, she has an almost impossible task. That is keeping the fuel gauge right where she needs it to finish this race and somehow getting around maybe the fastest man in the world in Dan Weldon.
Vitor Meira starting to creep up on her just a little bit, but if he can make the pass cleanly,
3 laps to go.
if he can make the pass cleanly, there's no doubt he will do it, but he would not put his teammate in jeopardy and take them both out.
He's inside with Vitor. Vitor's inside.
There she goes. She gets the draft. She's coming slow off turn 2.
Hers is starting to look on the outside. Hers is outside. You're clear.
Here's my wondering, Todd. Yep. The car's going through turn 2. Maximum G's. It seemed like it slowed down in the middle of the turn. That's when you get fuel starvation.
All right, don't let him by. You stay right there. Don't let him by.
Precious ounces of fuel in that car for Danica Patrick as she has slid back now to 4th place. Her shot may be over, but her story will certainly be told for days to come for what a tremendous performance by Danica Patrick as we check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Guys, 2 words down here, fuel pressure, and they're watching it. They're not sure if she can make it, but they're crossing their fingers, and those are the 2 words everybody is saying, fuel pressure.
And that fuel pressure comes from, there we go.
Turn 3, crash turn 3.
Well, I think we might know the outcome of this one right now. There goes the white and the yellow at the same time. And Danny Weldon, don't want to say who I picked there, Todd.
I know, I got to give you credit. And it's not a Gilles de Ferrin. You didn't wait till the white flag to call it, but there's celebration right now in the Andretti Green Camp. Climb Tools and Jim Beam, the folks down there. 26, the number 26 has never won the Indianapolis 500 until this day in 2005. The yellow flag is out, the white flag is out, the final lap. They cannot change their positions. Dan Weldon will lead them around, and there you see the frustration on the face of Danica Patrick's face. Vince Welch?
Well, Dan Weldon has won 4 of the first 5 races this season, but most importantly, he's won the Indianapolis 500. And Michael Andretti, you have won the Indianapolis 500. Congratulations.
Wow, I'm still in shock. It's unbelievable. Dan drove a hell of a race. You know, the whole Jim Beam Klein Tools team did a great job. Honda giving us a great engine. It's just unbelievable.
I know it's not as a driver, the one that you really wanted it as a driver, but can you just put it into words as an owner what this win means to the Andretti family?
It's just incredible. It's such a great feeling. It's right now it feels as good as I think if I would have won it myself.
Let's go upstairs, Todd.
Thank you, Vince. Congratulations, Michael. The checkered flag is out in Indianapolis, and the pubs are open in the UK. Dan Weldon has just won the Indianapolis 500. Not since Graham Hill in 1966 has an Englishman tasted the milk in Victory Lane at Indy. And that all goes away. The celebration has begun for Michael Andretti. Something he couldn't get as a driver, something his father did, the great Marco Andretti, and now Michael Andretti gets to taste the sweetest milk in the world. Your winner, Dan Weldon, claims the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. And Scotty Goodyear, I cannot believe this. Dan Weldon is off to the best start in IndyCar Series history. He is the only driver to win 4 of the first 5 races in the season. He is without doubt the hottest driver on the circuit.
Todd, we talked about the super teams, you know, and right now Michael Andretti, Kim Green, and Kevin Savary, they have one of the best teams going right now. We saw so much competition here today. Absolutely. Look at these guys. Most of them are in tears. A 4th place finish, but you know something? It's still amazing.
That is Danica's fiance, Paul Hospenthal, on the left. Her mother, of course, Bev, on the right, and they are
his young sister, Brooke.
Yep. The entire Patrick family and extended family, great people, great race. And Scott, as you pointed out, we will definitely see Danica Patrick in the victory circle. That was an unbelievable race by a rookie.
A rookie, and absolutely belongs with the best drivers in the world here at Indianapolis. And I go back to what I said a little while ago, asking Bobby if he was going to have her next year, and he just looked at me and said, she's under contract. A star in the making.
Unofficially, Danica Patrick finishes in 4th place, but Dan Weldon picks up the victory. Right now, let's send it down to Penn Holderness.
I'm here with David Letterman, co-owner of Danica Patrick's car. What an exciting last couple of laps, Dave.
Just crazy, and I don't know how they did it, but the crew does a tremendous job. They're just magicians. She had the thing perpendicular to the cement, and she comes out and she leads the race and had a legitimate shot at it. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more. What a dramatic finish. But boy, she's not 23 years old. She's no kid, and this team is just wonderful. They really, really, really did a magnificent job. I couldn't be happier to be affiliated with these guys.
Talk about the character of this young woman. She spun out, her car stalled, somehow stayed in at the end.
I don't get it. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how that kind of misfortune can befall you and still come back to lead the race and almost win the thing. Tremendous, tremendous commitment and ability and great support from a wonderful team.
4th place finish, not bad. A very proud owner right here, David Letterman. Todd, back to you.
4th place and 2nd place for Ray Hall Letterman. They are definitely part of the super teams in the IndyCar Series. And I tell you what, David Letterman has a way with words. He has got 2, 3, 4 great drivers. Kenny Breck, Buddy Rice, a fantastic team. Scott, your thoughts?
Well, I look at the whole roster right now, and I have to tell you right now, Buddy Lazier coming back from not being in a car for over a year and a half and talk about maybe possibly running out of fuel or gas. Who knows with that? But Buddy Lazier, the top Chevrolet, finishing in 5th spot. A great day for the Pennzoil Panther team when they had their main driver, Thomas Schechter and Thomas Engay, taken out of crashes. But right now, this man's sort of in a rush to get to victory circle. I know I would be.
Well, Marty Hunt, the director of facilities here, he may be the most valuable man right now. That is how close it came down to, folks. Dan Weldon has run out of gas. He is getting a push up pit row, and this is just anguish for his teammates. They have been down here celebrating for 5 minutes, waiting for the Brit to get back. Dan Weldon, a resident of St. Petersburg, Florida, brings the car down to victory lane. It may take a while, but he'll get there eventually. Don't worry about that as we check in with Jamie Little.
Well, Danica Patrick has rewritten the book for women in racing, and here is her mom, Bev. Wow. Tell us what the emotions are right now.
Unbelievable. What a day she's had, and perseverance of coming through with a few mistakes, a few things that happened on the track, and just keeping out there, keeping fighting. That's just what she's made of right there.
And you're her mom.
I couldn't be more proud. I asked for Mother's Day for a safe month, and thank God I got a safe month. Thank you.
One proud mom. Let's go to Dr. Punch.
All right, Danica Patrick giving Ray Lito, the engineer who guided her every single lap on the radio. It was his voice she was listening to. And when she crossed the start-finish line, they said she had a teaspoon of fuel. Danica, you have completed your first Indianapolis 500 with an outstanding effort. What is the emotion?
I'm relieved. I thought for a second we were going to win that thing at the end. I knew I had a fast race car. But you know what? When you got to save a little bit of fuel like we were at the end, you just aren't quite as quick. And all the guys that finished first, second, third deserved it. They were in the front the whole day. And I stalled in the pits once, and I spun it on the green flag once. And, you know, I went straight to the back a couple of times. So I'm just so proud of the team. So smart.
Around the world today, millions stood and cheered because they saw history made. You became the first female driver to ever lead the Indianapolis 500. What did that mean for you?
It meant that we were like another lap closer and another lap closer and another lap closer to win the thing. But like I said, you got to do what you got to do to finish the race. And I mean, gosh, we were like 16th or something at one point. So I finished 4th. I'm relieved. I'm pleased.
The driver said at the beginning of the year, you will be judged by what you do on the racetrack. I think the votes are in, and I think you've been judged pretty fairly. What does Danica Patrick make? What kind of statement did you make today here by running the way you ran at Indy?
Well, I think I showed I was a rookie a little bit today with some of the things that I did, but I think I showed that my on-track performance is all there. I mean, I actually thought that the place where I was going to lose the most time in lap traffic, I thought I gained the most time. So, you know, don't underestimate yourself, I guess. So I'm proud. I'm proud of the team. Congratulations to Rahal Letterman in 2nd and 4th. Argent, Pioneer, Honda, you guys make it happen.
All right, Danica Patrick, it has been a whirlwind month of May. As we check in now, Vince is standing by with Mario Andretti.
It's an Andretti family celebration with Mario and his brother Aldo here as well. But an Andretti back in victory lane for the first time since you won it, Mario, in '69, although not as a driver, but as an owner. But from your perspective, how do you feel?
Fantastic. This is just so sweet. Dan Weldon really deserves this one too, and he drove so hard. And Michael, I mean, the team, what can I say? You know, it doesn't get any better than this.
Yeah, Michael riding in the car to victory lane with Dan Weldon. Guys.
Thank you, Vince. Well, Dan Weldon is the man of the hour, but I'll tell you what, I've cast one vote for Woman of the Year, Danica Patrick, an amazing performance. But this young man from Emberton, England, started 16th, Scott, 16th. And here he is now in victory circle.
Amazing feat. We talked about patience early on in the race. He certainly did a great job with that, you know, and for a shoe fetish right now, he's got a lot more money to go buy some shoes.
No question about it. Let's send it down to our good friend, Mr. Jackaroo.
A very emotional Dan Weldon has made his way finally to victory lane. Mr. Weldon, welcome to immortality. Danny, I know in that last lap, once the yellow came out and the checker flag flew, that you got a little emotional in the car. The tears are still flowing.
Man, this has been a dream come true for me. I've loved the Indianapolis 500 ever since I have been a young kid, and I came here and watched it for the first time in 1999. I mean, you can see what a race it is, and you know, there's the best drivers in the world here, the best teams in the world, and I'm having an emotional moment. I'm just so proud. So thank you very much, everybody, to the Holman George family for giving everybody this race. It's the best in the world.
How about the fans today, Danny? I mean, we could have sold more seats because nobody sat in them.
I want to hear the fans some more. I can't hear you. Got to scream. This is the Indianapolis 500. It's the best race in the world, so everybody's got to be happy. But these fans make this race, and you know what? So does Indianapolis. It's the best place in the world right now.
Well, let me tell you when the fans will really start to scream. When you get this winner's wreath, the Borg Warner wreath on top of your shoulders, and most importantly, the milk. The milk is on its way to one Dan Weldon. Dan, there you go, my friend. Getting the congratulations of Kim Green, Kevin Savory, and of course, Michael Andretti. And Michael, you're going to enjoy the milk too, aren't you, my friend?
Oh yeah, I never had a sip of that. I need a sip. Never tasted milk so good. It was awesome. What a day. Dan drove a hell of a race. Whole Jim Green, Klein Tools. Guys did a great job. I finally won the Indy 500.
Yeah, welcome to victory lane, my friend.
Oh yeah, no more curse.
Back upstairs.
Thank you, Jack. The 14th win for Andretti Green. It ties Panther as the all-time win leaders in the IndyCar Series. But today, all that matters is that Dan Weldon is your winner of the 89th running of the Indianapolis 500. Much more from all the participants when we return to Speed City. Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as the celebration continues. Dan Weldon, your winner, followed by Vitor Meira, part of the Rahal Letterman team, Brian Herta, Danica Patrick finishes 4th, very strong. Buddy Lazier with a strong performance in 5th. There's Dario Franchitti, he slid down to 6th. Scott Sharp, Tony Kanaan go 7 and 8. Elio Castroneves, another top 10 finish. Then Ryan Briscoe and Ed Carpenter, part of the Vision team, he finishes 11th. Let's check in now with our Dr. Jerry Punch.
Down here in the middle of a discussion between Bobby Rahal, car owner, and Vitor Mira, who finished 2nd today. Vitor, outstanding run. Congratulations on a great effort.
Thank you very much. I think it's congratulations for the whole Rahal Airman Racing and Honda, because I did half of the job today. The other half was to the 17 crew. All the time I came in the pits, I gained 2 or 1 or 3 positions. It was awesome. I mean, I'm really impressed with those guys, and I'm just happy to be part of this family that is Rahal Airman.
And you were driving hurt. Let's show the folks that you got hit with debris. There's some shrapnel or debris during one of the incidents, and you were driving basically with your left hand for how long?
I don't know. Somewhere in between lap 1 and 200. I don't know. It just was after yellow. For sure was some debris on the track, and Weldon ran over it and hit at me. But I mean, that was fine. It was bothering, but it wasn't hurting on time or anything. But again, Crew 17, you guys are the man.
All right, let's check in with Bobby Rahal. Bobby, your car's finished 2nd and 4th. First, Vitor Mira, he's getting closer and closer.
Yeah, Vitor did a tremendous job. His crew did a great job, as he was saying. And, I said that a lot of people felt he could win this race, and I felt he was our secret weapon, and he just drove beautifully today and was always in the hunt. And, he really made great fuel mileage at one point. And unfortunately, a yellow kind of ruined the advantage it was going to give us, but he did a super job.
You knew Danica was tough and talented when you hired her. What do you know about her now after watching her drive the Indy 500?
Well, she's, I guess, no more than I knew before. She's a racer. I don't think there's any question about that. For her first 500, she drove really well. I mean, we had the stall in the pits, but really took us out of the top 5, where she ran the whole early part of the race. And, that kind of hurt because it took us a while to get back up to the front. But, when we made that stop, she always gets good fuel mileage, so we thought we need to roll the dice here. Because I didn't think we had a quite good enough car to pass 8 of these guys in 20 laps. So let's wing it, see what happens. And the guys were saying, well, we're going to run out about lap 198. And I said, well, where are we if we do? They said we'd be about 12th. And I said, if we stop, and they said we'd be about 11th. I said, keep going.
So they rolled the dice, and she ran out of fuel actually on the last lap of the race. Guys?
Thank you, Dr. Jerry Punch. Congratulations to the Rahal Letterman team. When we come back to Indianapolis, we'll have the conclusion, final thoughts from a wonderful 89th running of the Indianapolis 500.
Well, Scott Sharp flew underneath the radar starting on the front row on the outside. His best ever finish here is 7th. Scott Sharp, I know you wanted this bad. Take us through your run today.
Well, it was a strong day for the Delphi Fernandez team. I thank all the guys, just doing a great job all month long. But, we had some spots today where, boy, we had a couple sets of tires where we really hauled the mail. And I carved my way right to the front, on a little bit leaner fuel trim, conserving some fuel, and really felt, boy, we were in 2nd or 3rd and really in a good spot. And then we just struggled from there after a bit in traffic. And I think I was one of the fastest guys on the track, but I just couldn't get close enough behind somebody to make the pass. So, hey, a good day. We got some points and a little bit to work on and go to Texas.
Good to see Scott Sharp smiling. Guys?
Dan Weldon has won the 89th Indianapolis 500, and his teammate Brian Herta has finished 3rd. His father, Tom Herta, with Brian. His dad bought him his first car at the age of 12 and now enjoying a little Indianapolis 500 glory. You had a pit speed violation when you had gotten up to 7th, and that knocked you back to 13th. Do you think maybe that affected the outcome of the race?
It didn't help us. It didn't help us at all. But, there's nothing you can do, it's just I got the violation, and I know why. We sped in the pits, and it was a mistake on my part, but luckily I got to say the team did a great job with the pit strategy, because I had a pretty good car, but I couldn't quite get up in the front pack, and they got me up there on some good pit calls, and once we were there, we were pretty racy. So it's fun to be up there and to get a top 3 at the Indy 500 is great. And my dad's here, got me my first kart when I was 12, and so I always say it's his fault. And congratulations. I mean, so happy for Michael Andretti, because he's wanted this win so badly, and I wish I could have given it to him, but it wasn't my day. It was Dan's, and so congratulations to him and the whole team.
A big party at AGR tonight.
Thank you, Vince. Tonight on ABC, after America's funniest videos in Extreme Makeover Home Edition, you can see the very first episodes of Desperate Housewives and Grey's Anatomy, starting tonight at 9, 8 Central, right here on ABC. The celebration is cranked up, and we come back. Final thoughts after this.
Welcome back to the Indianapolis 500. What a day for Andretti Green Racing. 4 racers in the top 8, including Dario Franchitti, a 6th place finish. Take us through the end of that race.
Yeah, the end of it was probably the worst part for me. We were looking good up until then. A couple of people took track position, put us a little bit further back in the pack, and then Bourdais drove into me in turn 4. So that kind of changed the handling a bit. After that, we were really fighting traffic, and we couldn't make our way through.
Hey, thanks to your teammate Dan Weldon, your owner, Michael Andretti, just got his first sip of milk in victory lane.
Yeah, no, Dan drove a great race today, and it means a lot for Michael. I'm sure he had to ask somebody which way victory lane was, because he's tried so many times to find it here, but today he finally managed it as an owner. So full marks to those guys, and I have to say full marks to my RKX crew today, because we did a good job. We just came up slightly short at the end.
Not a bad day for Dario. 6th place finish. He's married to Ashley Judd, and he's got a pretty sweet helicopter. Doc Punch.
Thank you very much, Penn. And this guy right here consumed more wings than a fraternity party today. By my count, you had 3 front wings. How in the world did you finish 5th?
You know, it's a testament to how good my car is. It's a great team, Panther Racing. Want to thank the Bird Brothers for the opportunity and the sponsorship. But, you know, Andy Brown, Seth, this race team just has so many awesome engineers. And I think if we wouldn't have broken the wing off Scott Sharp's gearbox there with 40 laps to go, I think we would have had a really good shot to win this at the end. But, you know, it was a strong finish. I was amazed the car ran that good with a big hole in the left front wing. So it was a good run given everything, and, you know, I'm very, very pleased.
Buddy Lazier finishes 5th here today. The 89th running of the Indianapolis 500 is history, and Dan Weldon has gone to victory lane. We'll wrap it up when we come back.
You don't need a map in this town. There's only one road, but it's one mean, nasty mother of a road. There are 2 exits off this beast, but only one of them is marked victory.
Well, Dan Weldon had his life changed today when he came to the Indianapolis 500 and won it. But you know, Danica Patrick may have changed this entire sport with her unbelievably courageous performance here, and wound up finishing 4th. And Todd and Scott, great job. It was a dramatic day here at Indy.
All right, thank you, Brendan. It was a lot of fun, and wow, she is for real. We knew that coming in, but it was oh so close.
The real deal. You know, I would like to have seen to see if she had enough gas in the car to maybe run 100% right to the very end, you know. But think about all the pressures of her this month. We talked about that. What a great performance she did.
Danica Patrick showing all kinds of composure. And, folks, he is the man. 3 weeks ago, Scott Goodyear told me that Dan Weldon would win this race, and he came through. So I guess dinner's on me.
Well, you know something? Dinner should be on Dan, because, you know, Ray Haroon first won this race in 1911, won over $14,000. But right now, 1.7 last year for Buddy Rice, probably close to $2 million for Danny Weldon.
Those aren't too bad. A few guineas there for him as we send it back over to Brent Musburger.
All right, Todd, thank you very much. And let me tell you a couple things about Danny Weldon. Yes, he was born and raised in England. He now calls St. Petersburg, Florida home. One of his passions, NBA basketball. As you see down through our finishers here at this classic 89th running of the greatest spectacle in racing. The IndyCar Series now moves to the lightning-fast Texas Motor Speedway. That will be live under the lights on ESPN Saturday, June 11th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And on Monday evening, Dan Weldon can watch NBA playoff action right here on ABC with the Western Conference Finals. San Antonio and Tim Duncan will try to close out Phoenix. And stay tuned later for your local news and ABC's World News Tonight on Sunday. This is ABC Sports Championship Television. Congratulations to the Michael Andretti team. He has snapped the Andretti jinx here at Indianapolis. His father winning in 1969. Came here, he could never win again. Michael could not win as a driver, but today as an owner, his car took the checkered flag. So for everybody who worked here, I'm Brent Musburger. So long.